You guys ever watched the movie The Accountant, starring Ben Affleck? Today, I'm going to be talking to a guy who reminds me of that character.
And also at the Ministry of Investment itself, like all the roles I had throughout my career, they were focused on economics and finance. Like at the Ministry of Investment, one of the goals was to attract investments into the country. And the main goal of having FDI, like pulled into Uzbekistan, is to grow the economy, is to push, like create jobs, bring in foreign expertise, know-how, management skills, and all of that. So without a good understanding of economics and how like economics works, I don't think I would have been able to succeed in any of these roles.
That's an interesting fact about Mr. Muhammad, that he was my teacher, English teacher, for a brief period.
The lady there was asking me like, hey, why did you come to the UK? And I was like, to study. And she's like, what are you going to study? Finance. Oh, nice. Where are you going to study? I was like, at UCL. She's like, oh, yeah? Yeah. And she was like, I'm a Queen of England. And she wasn't believing that I was going to study at UCL. I'm like...
In my personal experience, I guess the toughest module was econometrics.
Like when you want to prove your skill, you don't just say, oh, I'm good at this. You say, there was a situation when I had this task and I did this action which resulted in this. You prove your skill.
So your experience was very much like a local soccer player getting transferred to a Europe's League team.
Like at Westminster, we used to cross-check amongst students, like our results, if we got things right. Over there, you cannot, because there are no wrong answers.
Your family don't need presents. They want you to be present.
He owned a building, a lucky building. So what happened was Google came into that building, and they were located in that building for some time. And when he asked Google, hey, what are you guys up to? Like, what are you doing? Google was like, oh, we're doing a business which is going to take over at least a third of the world's marketing.
Because now that you have this technology, do you think there is still need for, agencies like yours?
Worshipping is such a broad definition. Unfortunately, these days when we talk about worshipping, people have a very narrow understanding of it. They just think going and praying at mosques or just reading Quran, that's only the worshipping is. Yeah, it's a part of worshipping, but it's so wide. Like when you go out, you remove obstacle from the road, you are worshipping God.
Cool. All right. So let's save some of it for the podcast. All right. So you tell us when to start. Hey folks, hey everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Astra Muse. I'm your host, Muhammad Ali here. So, you guys ever watched the movie The Accountant, starring Ben Affleck? Today, I'm going to be talking to a guy who reminds me of that character. He's a financial analyst and has been to several countries around the world, and he specializes in accounting, and he is involved in overseeing portfolios. Portfolios worth of $10 billion from what I've read on his CV. I'm really excited to be talking to this guy today, and if you guys are interested into this kind of stuff, please keep watching. All right, it's time to meet our guest, Mr. Muhammad. Mr. Muhammad, thanks for coming to the podcast.
Thank you for inviting.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be here, Muhammad Ali. I think we started talking about this podcast a while ago when I was in Vienna. When I got the call, I was already excited, and now I'm same excited, if not more. So thank you. It's a privilege to be here.
All right, thanks a lot. Would you like to tell our audience a little about yourself?
Absolutely. So my name is Mohammed. I was born and raised here in Bukhara. I was here until I was 16. I went to English courses to Mr. Joraev. That's the link between me and you.
Yeah.
Then I moved to Tashkent to pursue my undergraduate degree in economics with finance at the University of Westminster. During my study years, I also taught English language to many folks in Tashkent. Also during one of my summer breaks, I came back and taught English at Mr. Joraev.
Yeah.
That's when we met with you.
That's an interesting fact about Mr. Muhammad, that he was my teacher, English teacher, for a brief period.
Yeah.
It's like it's coming full circle.
Yes. Then after graduation, I joined the Ministry of Investment, Industry and Trade. I think that's how they're called today. They change names every other year. So I joined as a junior analyst, made my way to senior analyst, later became head of division for Europe and the Americas. I oversaw our entire economic cooperation with all stakeholders, including state, public, and private stakeholders from European countries as well as the American countries. I mean, American countries, I mean the two Americas, but mostly our stakeholders were from Canada and the United States. And that's when I oversaw $10 billion worth portfolio, which you just mentioned. After the ministry, I took a gap year to do my master's degree in finance in London. I got Chevening scholarship, moved to London, studied at one of the most prestigious universities there, UCL. I pursued a postgraduate degree in finance. After graduation, I got internship opportunity with the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. I was within the country risk team there. And then it was a 6-month internship opportunity with them. After that, I joined the World Bank Group, initially as an investment analyst for a short period of time, and afterwards I got promoted to regional operations analyst for Europe. Then, very recently, I think it's almost the end of January, so starting from the start of January, I took a change in my career. I joined Plug and Play as director for Uzbekistan. And in fact, that's interesting. While we have an office in Uzbekistan, actually we run all our programs throughout all of Central Asia. So although I'm director for Uzbekistan, I also oversee our entire relationship for the Central Asian region. So it's been a month, almost a month with Plug and Play, and I'm happy to be here in my new capacity and talk to you about my journey, like life journey, how I got there. So excited about it. Thanks.
Yeah, that was quite a comprehensive rundown of your past.
Yeah.
So, what do you say we talk about all those adventures you were on? Starting with your early years in Bukhara.
Yep.
Right. How did it all start?
Let's do that. Okay. The question is, how did it all start?
Yeah. Like, well, where did you? I'm guessing, like most people out there, it starts with you learning English.
Yes, but for me it was a bit different. I was always a physics guy. I always loved physics so much. I mean, I was a math guy initially, but starting 5th grade at schools, they introduce physics into the curriculum. And I was like, okay, physics is my thing. I was so into physics. I loved it so much. I wanted to be an engineer growing up. I wanted to be someone into physics. I didn't exactly know who I was going to be, like what I was going to be, but I knew that physics is my thing. I very much liked exploring like the universe, cosmos, looking at the stars, trying to interpret what is what, learning about the planets and stuff. But then I wanted to get into, it's called like Gazovy College, I think, in Bukhara. I wanted to get into that college, but then one of the unfortunate things I found out is like colleges in Bukhara back then did not provide education to the degree needed. So the obvious choice was to go with Lyceum, which provided a little better education, but like still not sufficient to get you into the university later, right? So it was a hard decision, but then I went with Lyceum number 1. And when I thought I was going to study math and physics, I initially I went back and consulted with my family, with my mom, obviously, and with my brother, who was one of the people responsible in our family for my education. And they were like, why don't you focus on mathematics this year, and then we decide what you're going to do with physics for the second year, because you have 3 years to prepare for the university. So I went with the math, but loads of my friends were focusing on their English studies. Everyone was going to study English, and like most of materials in the world, like whatever you want, like you want to study stars, physics, no matter whatever it is, most of the materials, they come from English sources. So I was like, okay, if I want to be good in physics, I still have to learn English. because I thought initially I would go to Turin Polytechnic, and for that I would need some level of English. So the second year started, and instead of going to physics, somehow I started going to English. So I went to, started going to Mr. Juraev's courses. It was a very hard journey because like we had Lyceum, and then after Lyceum I used to go to my courses, and I was not having much time left for math, but like the foundation I had from the first year was kind of enough. So I focused on English, and I could not take up any more subject. And then the third year came when I was supposed to take on physics, but then English was so intensive, it got so intense because that was the year I had to like take my IELTS, I had to sit my IELTS. Like, I did not have any time left for physics or nothing else. So I went to sit my exam, IELTS exam in March, and then exams, like university admission exams were in August, and not much time left was left for physics. So what I did was I instead focused on my mathematics, and I also continued pursuing physics, but on my own. I did not go to any courses. And I took my shot with Turin Polytechnic. I took my shot with Westminster University. My goal was to get into budget, like to get a scholarship, because otherwise back then I don't think we were able to afford my tuition fee in one of those prestigious universities. Then it just turned out that for Turin it was a contract, like I don't know if it would be contract, like proper to say contract, but I could not get scholarship at Turin, let's say. And then with Westminster, it was scholarship. It was a solid one. It was I think I was number 1 or number 2, so I was at the top of the list. So Westminster became obvious choice, but they did not offer anything related to physics. Still, I was like, okay, let's see how it's gonna go. They still have economics, which is still math-based. Mm-hmm. So I took a shot with Westminster, and that's like how my journey from Bukhara to Tashkent happened.
Mm-hmm. So if you hadn't become an accountant or an economist, you would have been an engineer.
I think so. Like my goal was to get into NASA, or I don't know, like I mean, back then Elon Musk wasn't that famous, so he didn't have like SpaceX and those programs, but the goal was to get into one of the institutions like NASA and become an engineer, you know.
You really get excited when you see him building those big rockets, right?
Absolutely.
Getting people so hyped up about going to Mars.
Exactly.
Especially ever since he got involved in politics, he's been everywhere. People are talking about him.
How does he find time, right?
Yeah, right. It's insane. Because sometimes I sit and think to myself when I'm feeling a little down and watch his videos, and I'm like, I could become that guy, right? If I had pursued science, like I could be building rockets, I could be leading people to the future, right?
You could be conquering Mars right now, right? You could be building plans to conquer it. Absolutely.
Yeah. But still, I feel like we can still contribute to that plan in our own way, right? And one of the things I remember learning from a podcast I watched featuring Sam Altman, the founder
guy,
of
right?
OpenAI, and he said something interesting when he was told by Lex Friedman that he was told by Lex Friedman that AI is his genius product, and Sam Altman said that it's not really my product, it's the product of whole humanity.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot of drivers to transport things, it takes a lot of farmers to grow food, to feed all those engineers. So it's like it's the result of our cumulative effort.
Yep.
And so in a way, I feel like we are contributing to that plan of sending humans to Mars.
Yep.
Right.
I think so. I mean, life is circular, right? Everything is so interconnected, interrelated. Yeah. Like, actually, there was a scientist who was studying spurious regression. Spurious regression is when two things happen so randomly, like they are not related, but when you run statistics against each other, like you find such statistically significant correlation, like relationship, as if one of the factors is causing the other one. So what he was doing is he ran like the times you clap with the number of deaths in Africa, and he found out that every time we clap, one child dies in Africa. Every time a person claps in Europe, a child dies in Africa. But like, how can that be related to this? So he was like, okay, this is a very serious regression, but still the point is, if we want to relate the people clapping in Europe with people dying in Africa, I'm sure we will be able to find the links. I mean, it would be so long, but you can still find some indirect links to something. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think we are, in a way, contributing to the progress of humanity. We are, in a way, contributing to us going to Mars in the future, inshallah.
Yeah, right. So, once you got into university, WIUT, you decided to study economics there because it was related to math.
Yeah.
Right? And you were kind of a math geek and you thought it would line up with your personal interests.
Yes.
And how did you like studying economics at WIUT? I went to that university, like we both went there, right? And so I really want to see how our personal experiences of studying at that university contrast.
Studying at the university itself was a great experience, to be honest. I mean, of course, it had shortcomings, but what doesn't, right? Like, everything has its shortcomings. But, like, comparatively, if we compare studying at Westminster with studying... I mean, back then, we did not have so many private universities, so many foreign universities. We just had Westminster, Turin, Singapore, MDIS. What else did we have? I think those three were the options back then. But right now you have Amity, you have like so many of them. Even in Bukhara we have OSIO something, or Asia something. So comparatively, it was the best option for its time period back then. It was a wonderful experience because later on, as I said, I went to do my master's in London, and having studied at Westminster, having studied in UK-based education was of great help for me to succeed at UCL. So it was wonderful. It was a great experience to study at WIUT. But one of the things I would like to mention here is you specifically mentioned about studying economics. That part wasn't that much fun, to be honest. Because, okay, so we were doing our CIFS, like Certificate of International Foundation Studies. Now it's probably called different. So we had the choice of selecting optional modules like business, economics, law, what else? Like business information systems. In your first year, you can select 2 of them and then try and to help you select what you're going to study for your second year, right? So I was like, okay, I'm not a business guy. Like, I mean, if I want to do business, I don't feel like I should get a degree. I should just go out and do the business. I was like, okay, and I'm not an IT guy either. Like, I'm not into coding that much. So I'm like, one of the two, law or economics. I selected both, and I ended up liking economics more because it had some quant content, in contrast to law, which was very much like, I don't know, it involved loads of writing. I mean, I love writing. That's one of my like best skills, perhaps. Like in my skill set, that's one of the strengths I have. But still, like I was into economics more. But starting second year, when we started diving deeper into economics, like I found out that it's more of, at least a fall for me, right? It was more of social science than exact science, to be honest, because it involved working with some numbers, but it involved so many assumptions. Like you have to make so many assumptions to come up with a model of the market, which if one of the assumptions goes wrong, the whole model is good for nothing, it's destroyed, and you have to build up another one. So I was like, what is this? Like, I remember we were trying to build one of the models in the third or my final year, I don't remember. So it involved having like ADAS model against LM growth model or something, and we were putting down so many like letters and numbers into the formula. It felt like having the alphabet written down on the board, and I'm like, okay, which part of it is math? Like, which part of it is related to mathematics, which is my passion? On the other hand, while studying economics, I studied economics with finance. With our core remaining economics, we also studied a couple of modules on finance. On the other hand, we had finance, which was like, you have ratios, you have formulas, you plug in the numbers, and then you get the result, That seemed more of exact science for me than economics, which is why later, when I had to do my master's degree, I went with finance than economics, rather than economics. So studying economics was kind of tricky. It was kind of challenging. If you have a look at my transcript, I got first degree with honors, like first class honors. But most of that is driven by finance modules, with economics modules actually dragging down the score. Like
Yeah.
from economics, I used to get 50 something, 40 something, like just a pass. But when it comes to finance, it was like 90 something, like 80 something. So finance was the one driving everything up, and economics was the one dragging everything down. So studying economics itself was tricky, not related to WIUT, but just the subject itself. About studying at WIUT, I mean, it was great, but of course, as I said, it had a little bit of things which could have been improved. But again, like I believe that's the same everywhere.
In my personal experience, I guess the toughest module was econometrics. I'm not sure if you remember this module.
Did you also go to economics? Did you study
Yeah,
economics?
economics with finance, same major.
Oh, nice. Okay.
100% same major.
Econometrics was still okay. I just didn't like microeconomics, to be honest. Like, I don't know why. Macro was more of, I don't know, doable for me, but micro always gave me the hardest time. Econometrics, I mean, it's so much based on math. So, and as I said, math is like the backbone of all my skills. So that's why like econometrics was something. I mean, I think, if I remember it right, I got distinction from econometrics. So
Wow.
yeah.
Distinction.
Yeah, I think so. But what I didn't get distinction on is microeconomics and a little bit of macro. So
Right. It's probably, well, in my case, at the time, econometrics had a bad rap among students because the lecturer was tough on students, and the subject itself was very dense with all the formulas and probabilities and so many different conflicting concepts and everything, right? It seemed at the time, unless you were some kind of a genius like Einstein, you wouldn't be able to crack it. So that's how it felt to me at the time, at least, right? But looking back, would you say it was a good investment going into economics and finance?
absolutely, I believe that because it helped me with my career later. Like I got into the EBRD, which is, and also later to the World Bank Group. And also at the Ministry of Investment itself, like all the roles I had throughout my career, they were focused on economics and finance. Like at the Ministry of Investment, one of the goals was to attract investments into the country. And the main goal of having FDI, like pulled into Uzbekistan, is to grow the economy, is to push, like create jobs, bring in foreign expertise, know-how, management skills, and all of that. So without a good understanding of economics and how like economics works, I don't think I would have been able to succeed in any of these roles, because like we used to look at the high level pictures. We used to look at how much investments we need from which countries, which sectors of Uzbekistan are strong, which sectors are pro investment, which sectors can provide a good platform for foreign investments, where can we bring in what expertise from where. So understanding all these things requires good understanding of economics. Even later when I joined EBRD, as I said, I was in the country risk team, and although I was doing masters in finance, this role was so much economics focused. Like during my interview, I was asked technical questions only on economics, like about the balance of payments, about exports, imports, how important they are for the country, because like we needed to focus on sovereign risk, and sovereign risk requires deep understanding of economics. You have to be able to evaluate like 5 main factors, starting with the macroeconomic overview, moving on to financials of every country, talking about externals like exports and imports. You have to be able to focus on geopolitics, like how it is doing with the countries, and it's especially like these days. And finally, I think it was about fiscal policy, fiscal and monetary policy. So those things required very good understanding of economics. Even at the World Bank, where I was a regional operations analyst, one of the things we did was to work out a strategy, like where we need to invest as a World Bank Group, and how much we need to invest in which sectors are most vulnerable, which sectors need us to come in, step in and help, evolve, develop those sectors. And those things, like everything, everything I worked on, required me to have understanding of economics at some levels, but those levels have always been quite deep, to be honest. So having this background in economics from WIUT was like very, very helpful, because in my master's degree, it was just focused on finance, nothing from economics. I mean, there were, of course, a little bit of interactions with economics, but it was heavy, like investment banking, hedge fund, this kind of stuff. So nothing related to economics. All the economics knowledge I have is from WIUT, which got a little bit refreshed when I was studying CFA level 1, because it has a little bit of economics concepts. So I got some of them a little bit refreshed. But again, core comes from Westminster. So I believe it's been very critical for me in my career.
So if there are any students watching this podcast right now and want to get into economics and finance, what are some modules or specific subjects you would want them to read up on, you would want them to study well if they want to see themselves become a career politician or policymaker in the future, or one of those guys in charge?
Well, that's a very tricky question, because it depends. I mean, it largely depends on what they want to do, right? I mean, and also I graduated from Westminster in 2018. It's been 7 years?
Yeah.
I already forgot a lot of what curriculum looks like, and I don't know what optional modules, what modules in general they are offering.
Would you want them to focus more on macroeconomics or microeconomics?
Both. I would say both.
You just got to understand both. Right?
Yes, because macro is based on loads of micro things, right? Micro things, those are like small households and individuals that make up the whole economy, which make up the entire macroeconomy. So if you have an understanding of just surface, if you see just the high-level picture, and if you don't know what's deep inside of that, you will not be able to succeed. You may want to say, okay, if you're a policymaker, you're an economist, you're in charge of running your country's economy, and let's say you want to cut budget deficit. You want to say, okay, I want to cut budget deficit, and there are two ways of doing that. One way is to raise taxes. The other way is to cut government expenditures. If you do not have enough understanding of what kind of implications one of the two is going to have on individuals, households, firms, investments, how it's going to affect ecosystem, on such a individual scale, the policy you make is not going to be able to actually give a good result. It's not going to yield the result which you're aiming at. So I think if they want to become people in charge of, making changes, people in charge of structuring the country's policies, then both micro and macro. I would even say more of micro than macro, because macro thing can be picked up. It's not that hard. I mean, it's critical, but it's not so hard when you understand on microeconomics. But for me, macro has been easier than micro, in my experience. So
clear. So earlier you mentioned you won tuning scholarship, right?
yes.
So what do you think helped you the most win that scholarship? So you had your background in economics, so you had wide scholarship, right?
None of the two. I don't think those two had anything to do with Chevening scholarship, because Chevening looks for people who will become leaders, who will become influence makers, who will become decision makers, who will be able to lead their community into prosperity. Even if you studied in some village university and you don't even have you didn't receive any scholarship during your entire life, even if all your scores were, low throughout your study period, if you can prove them, if you can make them believe that you have what it takes to be a leader, you have what it takes to become an influence maker in your community, they will invest in you. So actually, one of the things I heard, I can't confirm if it's true, but one of the things I heard about Chevening scholarship is they don't like investing into economics, finance, business guys too much, because those are the guys which will later try to find some opportunities overseas and stay there. They like investing better into teachers, into into like people who they believe will make a change in their communities after returning. And if we in fact look at statistics, at least of all statistics for Uzbekistan, not many people who major in economics, finance, or business actually got successful getting Chevening. And but again, I can't confirm that, because I don't think it's in any official source there. But it's just some thoughts which came out of discussions with people who got Chevening scholarship, who considered applying, who applied and got rejected. So it's the result of all those talks. And if we look at it that way, and also one thing I would like to mention is that Chevening actually has a cap. They put a cap on MBA programs. If you decide to pursue MBA, then they will only cover up to £18,000 of your contract. The amount may have changed from the time I applied, but during the period I was applying, if you want to go study MBA, the cap was 18,000 because, I mean, for Chevening, they don't believe that MBA graduates are the ones who are actually going to come back and make change in their communities. I mean, I'm not speaking on behalf of Chevening now. I'm just expressing my personal thoughts here. Mm-hmm. So, and also because there are so many people in the area of finance, economics, and business who want to get scholarship, competition is so much tougher than many other areas. Like, Chevening aims to bring people from diverse backgrounds, from various, academic circles, from various contexts. So when you apply, I think right now they are receiving about 10 people, like the quote for Uzbekistan has increased, quota. But when we applied, it was just 5 people. And 5 people, they want to select from various age groups. They want to select like both men and women. And they want to select people representing one education, the other IT, the other some other area. So if you're coming as a teacher and applying for Chevening, then you have a higher probability of being selected because competition is less fierce than it is for guys coming from business, finance, and economics. Because there were so many of us. Like I actually knew that. We kind of had a community of people who were applying for Chevening, and like among the guys who were pursuing these 3 areas, there were so many of them. Until the moment I received a confirmation that I got the scholarship, I did not have any faith, any belief that I was going to get it because competition was so tough. People who were going there had so much stronger backgrounds than I did. There was a guy who got, I don't know, his bachelor's from Princeton or somewhere. And if you look at his resume, he was way more impressive than I was. So I was like, there is no chance if anyone from this community is getting Chevening scholarship, it's that guy. If he's not getting it, like no one else is getting. Like if any of us is getting it, it has to be that guy. But here we go, like he didn't get it and I was the one who got that.
So what do you think made your application stand out among an impressive pool of candidates?
Yes, I think it's because, so I mentioned earlier that one of the key strengths I have in my skill set is writing. Mm-hmm. And if you can remember from back then when I was teaching, I usually focused on teaching writing. Yeah. So that's because that's what I have passion for. Writing is my strength. One of my strengths. So when the first stage of Chevening application is through essays, and to my estimation, I think 60 to 70% of you succeeding is based on those essays. So if you can masterfully describe how your background matches with the criteria of Chevening, and if you can masterfully describe how this scholarship is going to help you achieve your goal of, changing your community, making impact in your community, how you're going to bring what you learned through Chevening into your country and integrate it into your community. If you can masterfully describe that, like you are sure to get it. So I think I did well on that because honestly, I did quite a well research on what Chevening needs. I saw so many interviews on YouTube from like successful applicants. I reached out to applicants who got Chevening scholarships from previous years. I did my extensive research, and I found out that there is a method called STAR, like STAR, So situation, task, action, response. Oh no, not response, result. So like when you want to prove your skill, you don't just say, oh, I'm good at this. You say, there was a situation when I had this task and I did this action which resulted in this. You prove your skill. You don't just you don't just say, oh, I'm good at writing, I'm good at this, I'm good at that. You say, okay, there was a situation and there was this hardship, there was this difficulty when I stood up, when I stepped in, took over the role of leader, distributed tasks among members depending on their abilities, capabilities, and we ended up succeeding and receiving the result which was more impressive than what we aimed for. And there you go, you are a leader now. So that's how you prove your skills. So I think I was able to do that through my essays. So I think that's what actually got me the scholarship.
And what was it like once you got into this university, and how was it different from, your education in Uzbekistan? Like, in what ways? So what was your first reaction when you got there and you started studying, and how things were different?
Okay, studying at UCL honestly, it was so tough. It was probably the toughest period in my entire life. When it started, I got into depression. Like, I'll be honest with you. Like, when it just started, I was praying to God that I would successfully graduate, because I didn't know what I was going to do. Like, Chevening requires that you successfully graduate. Like, they don't put a criterion on like what degree you need to get, but you need to make sure to graduate. And if you fail, you'll have to pay for whatever you failed and restudy or like resit the exam. So I was like, I hope that's not going to happen to me. I was praying to God, like, I just want to graduate, no matter whatever is the degree of diploma going to be. Because getting into the university itself was already a difficult experience, because first thing you need to do is you have to make up a strong resume with a strong, like super strong motivational letter, why you want to study there, what value can you bring to the university, and why you should be selected over other candidates. Like, I think I was selected among 200 people out of 1,600 or 16,000, I even don't remember. And for making just the application, you have to pay over £200 just to make your application. And they would send you some math exam. They did send me some math exam, which was like advanced math. It was matrices, very hard. But luckily, I was able to succeed in it. There was, like, at the ministry, I was working for 3.5 years. My skills were out of date already. Like, I wasn't doing any math at the ministry. So I was like, I did a little bit of retraining, and I reached out to some people who got into finance program, and they were telling me it's going to be like a lot of matrices. So I was just revising matrices. I went into the exam. I succeeded. I got the score like enough to secure my seat, to secure my education there. And then after I got in, the studying started like at the end of September, but I went there a bit later because we had some like issues over here in Uzbekistan with my, like, I had to resign from my current position, and like they had to find a replacement for me. It took a while to get this thing done. And then when I went there, it was COVID time, and I was locked up for 10 days. I had to self-isolate for 10 days.
Where did they put you? At the airport?
No. I could leave from airport to an accommodation of my choice, but I had to show it in my application, and I had to stay there. Mm-hmm. I remember when I went to the airport, I was just checking in through immigration check, and the lady there was asking me like, "Hey, why did you come to the UK?" And I was like, "To study." And she's like, "What are you gonna study?" "Finance." "Oh, nice. Where are you gonna study?" I was like, "At UCL." Mm-hmm. She's like, "Oh yeah." And she was like, "I'm a Queen of England," and she wasn't believing that I was gonna study at UCL. I'm like, "No, why? Like, I mean, can you show some document proving that?" I gave her my offer letter and everything. She's like, "Oh, damn, like, you must be from some rich family." I'm like, no, I actually got scholarship. She's like, "Are you smart?" I'm like, I don't know how to answer to that, But, I mean, I guess so. Like, and she was like, "Okay, fine. Just make sure you go and then lock yourself up for 10 days." So I had to sit in an apartment for 10 days and educate. Like, studies already started by that time. So it was the first week going on, and then I was only able to go to the university in the middle of the second week. When I got to the university, I sit in a lecture, and then they tell me in 3 days I have a deadline for my first coursework submission. And I'm like, what? Like, I just joined, guys, what's going on here? And then I also found out that some guys didn't have enough accounting skills, so they were running mandatory accounting courses. Like, you have to take the exam. If you fail it, then you have to go through mandatory accounting courses. If you don't fail, then, okay, you can just continue. The score doesn't go to your final degree, final diploma, but still you have to sit that course through. I took the exam. I failed it.
I wasn't expecting that. I thought you'd say passed it.
No. That was the one exam I failed. Like, the first impression of going to UCL, the first day, I find out that in 3 days I have a coursework coming up. And then I sit the exam on my first day, and then I fail it. I mean, the score doesn't go to your diploma, but still, like, I mean, you don't want to fail your first exam. It was from accounting. Maybe my accounting skills were somewhere dusted up in my shelf, and so I had to study that module for that semester, and when I retook the exam, I scored like more than 90, so it was okay. And at the end of the day, but like, I mean, the first impression was like, it was awful. And then they were giving us some task based on MATLAB platform I'm not familiar with. I was familiar with Stata. It was MATLAB, a lot of coding. My goodness, like, I felt like I was gonna fail. I felt like I was not gonna able to pull through. I wrote to Chevening saying, hey guys, I also got offer from Queen Mary University in London. Like, I think if UCL is top 10 in the world, Queen Mary is somewhere between top 100 and top 150. They're still good, but education is not like that hard. And like, it's at WIUT level perhaps, a little bit higher, but like, I mean, it's doable. Like, can I change now? They're like, what are you talking about? We already paid your tuition fee. Like, there is no way you're changing your university now. It's too late. I was like, I wasn't sure if I was going to pull it through. To my fortune, to my luck, it was a group work. I was teamed up with some Chinese guys, some nice guys, very genius guys, and they did the whole thing. Like, they did all the MATLAB coding, everything was ready. The only thing left was just to write everything up, and they were about to report me as a free rider because I wasn't showing up. And I was like, hey guys, it's me, I'm here. Like, please don't report on me. If you guys have done everything, leave the description part to me. Just explain what it is. I will like interpret our results and do the write-up. I'm good at writing. And they were like, can we believe in you? And I was like showing some of my assignments from Wired. They were like, okay, you're good at writing. So I did the write-up. I succeeded through the first coursework through their help. And I just got stuck to those guys. I was like, you guys have to teach me this, teach me that. You know, it felt like the first impression was everywhere I went throughout my life, I was a top-tier student. At WIUT, I was one of the top 10 maybe. Lyceum, like even at IELTS courses, I got 8 back then. And like 8 score was wow back then. I mean, 8 is normal now, but back then, like 8 was treated almost like 9. When I got 8, I was like treated as if I was, I don't know, one of the most intelligent people back then. So I was used to this kind of treatment, but at UCL, I was one of the dumbest. And it sucked to feel that way because, like, I don't know, like when I went to people, talk to them, they were the guys who got all of CFA, they were the guys coming from Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, Massachusetts, like MIT, like, and they used to ask me which university you went to, and I was like, Westminster. And they're like, oh, we know a place called Westminster, so there's the University of Westminster. Like, yes. I never told them it was in Tashkent. They used to believe I studied somewhere in London. Like, they thought I studied at Westminster in London.
So your experience was very much like a local soccer player getting transferred to a Europe's League team.
Exactly.
Right?
Like, it felt so.
You're from playing at Paktakar to playing at Real Madrid.
Exactly, that's what I felt.
Alongside superstars, right?
Like, only in the first semester, we submitted 13 courseworks. Can you believe that? And courseworks weren't anything like you study at WIUT. Like, I believe what we covered within one lecture was one entire module we covered per semester at WIUT. It was that much hard, that much tough. Let's say we have 12 teaching weeks, and teaching weeks are split into 4 or 3 among 3-4 different professors. that come from various industries. For example, let's talk about corporate finance. No, not corporate finance. It was led by one lecturer. Perhaps quantitative finance. So we had stocks, bonds, derivatives, and what else? So let's say these three. So for teaching stocks, we had someone come from London Stock Exchange come and teach us. The guy who is actually doing the job in London Stock Exchange, who got the degree of professor, used to come and teach us. And as a coursework, he used to give us a project from his own experience, like something from London Stock Exchange related. And like he teaches us, let's say, if we study those three, like we have 4 weeks for each professor. Whenever professor leaves, he gives us a task, and until the next professor comes, within 1 week, we as a group have to like solve it, and we have to submit it. And then the next professor comes. If it's bonds, then we have someone coming from like bond specialty who works with guilds. I think it's called guilds in like UK bonds. He used to come and teach us. When we had derivatives, it was some guy specializing in that coming and teaching us, and he used to give us the project, like real project from like whatever he does in the industry. And it used to be so tough. Like at Westminster, we used to cross-check amongst students, like our results, if we got things right. Over there, you cannot, because there are no wrong answers. Like, I mean, it just depends on the assumptions you make. It depends on approaches you make. As long as you can justify your approach, as long as you can justify that the methods you chose to evaluate some stock, some bond make sense, you are good to go. So everyone used to have so many different results, and we used to defend that through our coursework assignments. We had to detail we had to detail our assumptions, like why we think this evaluation is right, why we think not the other is right. So there were so many different approaches. And sometimes they used to run kind of competition kind of things, and winners used to get some sort of prizes, like maybe going to sightsee some company, or some people got even job offers by succeeding in those courseworks. Like it's a real deal. You have real people coming from the industry teaching you and actually getting talented ones into the job. So, and it felt nothing like WIUT, and that was crazy. Like,
yeah. So you could like turn, you could go from just being a student to a trader trading $1 million worth of stocks overnight, just for doing well in your coursework.
Absolutely. Actually, we had a guy, one of our course mates, he founded a hedge fund, the guy, like one of our friends. And he raised, I don't know, like someone said around £5 million.
Wow.
From friends of his family, and he employed some of our friends to run his hedge fund. I was like, okay, can I get like internship opportunity or something there? He was like, man, like sorry, like like some other time.
Yeah, probably closed circuit. They have their own people. They don't really want the outsiders in.
I mean, it's crazy, like some university student founding a hedge fund. And we used to hear some success stories of our alumni, of our students. We had many people, like, studying at UCL and starting their own business, startups, opening hedge funds. It was crazy, to be honest.
All right. And at what point did you get internship after you got your scholarship? So you studied there for some time. Your resume says that you did some internship
at the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, EBRD in short. So first semester was very tough on me. Like I had to stay focused on my studies. I was like, if I can pull through my studies, I'm going to be okay. So after having successfully closed the first semester, I started developing some faith in myself and some confidence. I was like, okay, like it seems doable. I feel like I can graduate, The only one which gave me the hardest time was asset pricing, I think it was called like that, module. That one, so at Masters, pass is 50, so you have to get above 50 for pass, above 60 for merit, above 70 for distinction. I mean, our professors used to tell us, if you guys get a distinction, we would publish your coursework on some paper. It was that much stuff. Like, they were so confident no one's gonna get that. Like, if any of you gets a distinction, you can approach me and I'll publish you on some reputable paper. After hearing that, like, you're not even gonna hope for distinction, to be honest, right? So that asset pricing, that's the one which gave me 52. That was like the lowest I got, but everything else was fine. Actually, I ended up graduating with 69 overall. Just a little bit was not enough to get a distinction, so I got merit. But I was still very happy. So after the first semester, I developed some confidence in myself that I can do it. And then I saw many people, many of my course-mates starting to apply for some jobs, for like opportunities. And I was like, why not I do it? Because we were located in Canary Wharf. So Canary Wharf is kind of like financial district of London. And it has so many like global financial institutions located all over. And we were based in the middle, at the very center of it. We have a building called One Canada Square. It's the tallest building there. And we were on the like highest floor of it, on the 50th level. And we had such an impressive view of Thames River and everything.
So you were like at Wall Street of
Yes,
the UK.
Exactly. And whenever you look around, you see all the financial institutions, Barclays, Deutsche Bank, Citibank, like all of them just are there. And we used to have visitors from them every week. They would come for scouting for talent. Like our university used to host many events like that. It just felt, you just loaded up with finance. You're like, I need to go out and get something. And I was like, and after developing this confidence, I was like, if I could get through this asset pricing, I'm sure I can do everything else. So I was like, okay, why don't I try some opportunities? My focus was on EBRD because it was based in London. It was IFI, working at the ministry. I developed so much passion for these IFIs, like the World Bank, ADB, EBRD, because they were the ones who came to us with money, and they used to lend us money. And whenever we talked to them, it felt like talking to someone above your pay grade, like, people from some other background, people with so much knowledge. They come to you, they talk about so many complex structures of how transactions can be done, what kind of projects can be done in what complex ways. You just feel so dumb, and you listen to them, you feel like, okay, those people are some geniuses, right? And you unconsciously, I unconsciously developed so much passion for these institutions. I'm like, I have to go and get into one of them. That's where I'm going to grow. That's where the future is for me. So I started applying after the end of first semester to the EBRD. I scouted for opportunities. I did not want like a real job because I still felt, even though I developed some confidence in myself, I still felt like I needed to focus a lot on my education because that's what I was for in the UK after all. But some side job, some side experience didn't hurt. So I applied mostly for internship opportunities at EBRD. There weren't so many of them, but there were some. One opportunity showed up in trade finance department. I did very well at the interview. I felt like I got the job. I felt like that because it went so well. We developed such a great bond with the guy who was interviewing me and all that. And I felt like I landed it. I felt like I did everything it took me to do. And they were like, we're going to come back to you within a couple of weeks at most with an answer. And those 2 weeks passed like 2 years for you. I kept waiting. 2 weeks passed, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, nothing, no response. And I'm like, okay, I felt like I didn't get it. And then another one showed up, another opportunity. They were like, hey, let's meet up, let's talk up. And I was in France. It was my second semester finished by that time. So as you say, I started applying at the end of my first semester, before the beginning of my second semester. And it's only at the end of second semester that I'm receiving some calls. So it takes that long. So I was receiving so I received this call for interview. And I was like, I'm in France, actually. I was actually in Spain and then traveling to France from Spain because it was the end of semester. I felt like I need to chill a bit. I needed to travel. And so I was like, I didn't have time to properly prepare for that interview. For the first one, I was so much prepared. I read so much about trade finance. It was a trade finance opportunity. I found out about the types of trade finance, everything, right? For this one, I was traveling so much I didn't have time to prepare. And then the day of the interview came. I flew in Paris. I landed. according to my calculations, I should have been in city within 1 hour, and then I should have gone to some cafe where I booked some seat for myself and attended the interview from there. But it was such a heavy traffic. The plane landed late. It took 3 hours to get to Paris. And when I'm out of the bus, interview starts in 5 minutes. I ran to some local bar, and I'm like, hey guys, can I come in and join the interview? Like, I have like job interview, please let me in. They were like, we're not open yet. And I'm like, please, please, please let me in. Like, I have no choice. They let me in. They sat me in some corner. I didn't even pay attention. Behind me was a big picture of a like man holding beer like this. And I opened it, and then I joined the call. Also, before going to Paris on the night before, I bought a T-shirt from Zara, like not T-shirt, like shirt, like white shirt for the interview. I didn't even bring shirt with myself. I didn't know I would be called up for interview. I entered like 1 or 2 minutes late. The guy was waiting for me. Hiring manager is waiting for me in the call. And then he goes like, okay, what can you tell me about the balance of payments? I'm like, oh, dang, like, was it exports and imports, or was it like government spending and taxes? Like, think now, like, remember from Westminster, what was it? Oh, I gave both. So it can, like, he was like, if I told you to look at the balance of payments of some country, what would you look at? I was like, I would go and look at the government spending, well, like what it's charging taxes, this and that. And then I would also probably look at exports and imports. He was like, exports, imports? And I'm like, I felt like it was the wrong answer. I'm like, yeah, why not? I mean, government spending and taxes, if it's not balancing well, it means like there is some problem with exports and imports as well. So I tried to make some links. And after the interview, I felt like I didn't get it. But how do you know? That's the one where I ended up getting the job, and the other one I couldn't land. Because like, he even made fun of this beer behind me. I'm like, I see you're having so much fun when you're traveling. And I was like, oh, yeah. Because what he told me is, I was like, okay, I'm traveling now, and I just told him I can't participate into a formal call. He was like, no, it's just casual one. Let's just meet each other. But when we were meeting each other, he was asking me so many technical questions because he told me it was a casual call. I wasn't prepared at all, and probably that's what the trick was. Like he called me into technical, like he wanted to call me into technical calls, knowing to get to know what my base knowledge is without me getting prepared. That was a bit of tricky, but at the end, I ended up getting that role, and I joined EBRD. I only started working in August. In March, I think I got off a letter. 3 months, they do background check. They check if everything you wrote on your CV is true. So if you claim to have some certification, some qualification from somewhere, they reach out to that institution, they check the numbers, they cross-reference whatever you gave them against whatever they have in their bases. Like, I was so worried because in my resume, I showed that I graduated from the University of Westminster in London. And I was so worried, like, if that's going to come up with being a trouble. Yeah. But it shouldn't have, because the degree we get, it comes from the University of Westminster in London. So they reached out to the university, and they referenced they cross-checked the reference number I gave from my diploma, and then they confirmed it. So there was no problem. So a hint for students in the future: if you guys get your degrees from WIUT in Tashkent, right? You can still show that you went to school in London, and you'll be just fine. I mean, it's not a lie, because that's where we receive our degrees from. But if they asked me if I actually went to the campus in London, I used to say, no, I studied in Tashkent. Why do I show it's in London? Because my degree came from there.
And what is it really like working at a bank? Like, you all day long sitting at your computer looking at numbers and making transactions? And how big of a portfolio were you managing at the time?
Okay, I only managed portfolio in my capacity at the ministry, but at the bank it was more of macro role, not like finance role. So what I did was like country risk estimation, and it did not involve much of portfolio management, but I did look into numbers. So what we did was EBRD gives out loans to many countries, and they want to be able to evaluate the risk before actually investing into those countries.
And how do they do it?
We are the ones. So they have a risk management department who does risk assessment, risk evaluation. So what we used to look at is there are already institutions like S&P, Moody's, Fitch, and also we used to use IHS Markit. That's the one I didn't like so much, but we used to use them. Later they got acquired by S&P. So it didn't make much sense to use IHS Market. I hope EBRD changed it already, but I don't know. Like back then, we used to use that. So we go to the reports of those 4 organizations who provide overview. They do in detail, review of economic activity in the country. They evaluate financial metrics like debt to GDP ratio, how much country has debt in relation to its GDP. What its fiscal stance? What does its fiscal stance look like? Like, is it in fiscal deficit or fiscal surplus? Like, is it spending more than it's earning? The government, if it's spending way more than it's earning, it means that money has to come from loans. Like, how is it financing it? Is it like foreign loans, international loans, domestic loans? How is its inflation doing? Is its currency depreciating? Because if it's depreciating, then it's a bad sign because it needs to like pay more for like its foreign debts. So we used to check its reserves, like international currency reserves. Like, I mean, it's all done by these institutions. We used to get paid subscription, like premium subscription for everything they had, because EBRD does not have like capacity to do like these analysis on its own, and then it doesn't make sense when you already have like institutions focusing on that, and when you can just get their reports and look at the numbers they have. It doesn't make sense for you to redo this thing and overpay for it. So we used to download those reports, look through. As I said, there were 5 pillars: macro, externals, fiscal, financial, and geopolitical. We used to look at those 5 and give our evaluation of what the situation is like within each country. And also EBRD, we used to have a mission, like we used to go to visit countries of operation. I mean, I was an intern, I didn't go, but the manager and also associates within our team used to travel to those regions, talk to the local authorities, and before going, we already have the reports downloaded, we are familiar with them, we know like where to raise flags, what questions to ask. They're prepared, they go prepared, they ask questions, and they come back, and then they put whatever they got from authorities against what's in those reports, and then give like internal evaluation. That's how we used to do it, and it was my job to keep track of all these reports from these 4 agencies, and basically make our internal adjustments to like risk valuation.
Right. You ever looked into Uzbekistan's standing at the moment, like financially? You ever did any risk evaluation on our country?
No, because of potential conflict of interests. They gave me mostly Eastern Europe, like Baltics, or Balkans, Poland, Romania, Central and Eastern Europe, but they did not.
That makes sense. Yeah, obviously you'd be biased to Uzbekistan, right? If you,
I don't know. Probably not. I don't think so. I don't think I would be biased. But if there is a little bit of a chance of that happening, it's better to prevent it.
Yeah, right. So then, after this internship was over, right, you went on to secure a job. Was it a job or internship opportunity? I don't exactly remember from your CV, at World Bank.
It was a real job now. By the way, internship itself was a real job because I used to get paid. And how it works at the EBRD is, so they need a hand in some department, but they need a hand for some seasonal job, right? So they need an analyst, but hiring an analyst is going to cost them a lot. And they would not need an analyst. So let's say they need an analyst for 6 months, but past that, they don't see need for that analyst. So that's when they offer internship opportunities, because they need a hand of help for just some period of time. So when you are an intern, you're a full-time intern. You work like an analyst. You get an experience of an analyst. You get a job of an analyst, but it's just for some period of time. And past that period, like, I mean, they can prolong your contract, extend your contract for another 6 months, depending on the need in the department, or if there is an opportunity where you can swap in, you apply for that opportunity, and then you go for that. So It was a real job, definitely. I know that internship in Uzbekistan sounds so much like, a bit of a fake job because you don't learn so much, honestly speaking. But over there, internship is such a big deal. It's like, it's a real job. Like, you do real things. Because, as I said, I used to provide, country risk evaluations for Central and Eastern Europe countries. And if you are doing that level of work as an intern, like, that means you're doing something for real. Talking about the World Bank, past internship, I got offers from EBRD itself as an analyst, and also from the World Bank Group. World Bank Group is huge. We have IBRD, we have IDA, we have IFC, we have MIGA. So I went to join MIGA, IFC, International Finance Corporation, which deals with private sector on behalf of the World Bank Group. So I joined as an investment analyst in Tashkent. I was within corporate transaction advisory team, and we focused on PPP projects in Tashkent. PPP means public-private partnership. A good part of PPP is that it doesn't burden the country wants to build a bridge, it wants to build roads, it wants to build hospitals, it wants to build government has so much to do. But if it spends so much money on everything, the government expenditure is going to go up so much, and fiscal deficit is going to increase widely. You cannot have that much of a fiscal gap. Like, you're going to do badly in the long run if you maintain wide fiscal gap.
Yeah, just a quick question here. What is a fiscal deficit? Like, how would you explain it in layman's terms?
Yes. Fiscal deficit is, so fiscal balance is the government's earnings against government spendings, expenditure, against taxes it earns. Taxes is government's revenue.
Revenue, right.
Expenses is providing infrastructure, building hospitals, blah, blah, blah. Providing retirement obligations, payments, so forth and so on. So all of that government expenses deducted from its revenues in form of taxes. And then you have fiscal balance. If it's zero, it means it's balanced. If it's positive, it means government is earning more from taxes than it's spending on infrastructure.
So it's surplus.
So it's surplus.
Right.
So it means the government is not a borrower because it doesn't need to borrow money. If it's in deficit, that means the government is spending more than it's earning, and that needs to be financed through loans, international or local. So coming back to my point, so government needs to do so much to provide for people, and it cannot go into deep deficit because that means building up loads of loans, which the government will have to pay up later. But at the same time, population is growing. We are hitting 40 million, right?
Oh, yeah. Right.
So needs are huge.
Yeah.
So alternative approach for governments is to go PPP. That's the public-private partnership. So they want to build a road. What they do is they announce a tender. They say, okay, I need to build this road from Tashkent to Samarkand. If there is a company willing to come and build, I'm happy to take them over. Some company wins the tender. Whoever gives the best conditions for the government actually wins the tender. So how it happens is private company is going to come in, assume all the financial risk and responsibility, build the road at its own expense. So government is not charged anything. And after the road is built, it's going to start charging people who use the toll road, and that's how they're going to make their money for some period of time. It can be from 30 to 60 years, it depends on the type of agreement you come into. And they usually assume responsibility of, whenever, after 60 years, when they have to leave the roads in the, super condition. So the government doesn't spend a penny, so they just benefit from investors coming. Of course, government also has responsibilities like providing them with customs tax exemptions, so forth and so on.
It really sounds like a smart business.
It is. It is a smart business.
Yeah.
We built so many power stations, like solar energy, wind power stations, through this mechanism. I don't know if you heard, but Mubadala, Masdar, many Emirati companies came into Uzbekistan, building power stations at their own expense. But government assumes the responsibility of buying energy from them at some agreed price. Whoever gives the lowest price usually wins the bid. So government will buy for 20 or 30 years at fixed price from them and distribute the energy. I mean, in our case, it's the government because government is the one distributing energy. That's why government has to buy. But if it's some other country, it can be private entity as well, like private buying from private. I mean, we're trying to get into the market economy, but we're not just there. So I was at IFC doing this corporate transaction advisory. Like corporate transaction is a big, like it's a huge scope of work, but our activity in Uzbekistan mainly focused on PPP projects, public-private partnership, the ones just like I described now. Like when I came into Uzbekistan, it was January 2023, if I'm not mistaken. I moved back from London because according to the tuning requirements, I had to move back to Uzbekistan. And so it was a blackout period when it suddenly got abnormally cold outside, minus 20 or 25 degrees. What happened was people started putting in heating systems because gas was down and people were trying to heat their homes with heaters, like electric heaters, and it put too much pressure on the system. System went down. Tashkent went into blackout. There was no gas, no electricity. So I don't know if you remember.
Oh, I do. Actually, universities were out for a few weeks.
Exactly.
Learning centers stopped. And the pipes were frozen. People didn't have water.
I moved back to Uzbekistan in that period when I came into Tashkent. When I went home, inside home is so cold. Like, honestly, you don't even. I didn't even want to go into the bathroom. Like, if I'm speaking, like steam is coming out of my mouth. I could clearly see it. It was that much cold. And when I joined IFC, government asked us to help with this. We went to talk with local stakeholders, engage with stakeholders. And the problem was we didn't have enough capacity like it wasn't modern enough to hold up to this level of energy consumption. So we needed to move into market mechanism because electricity used to be so cheap until recently, if you remember.
Yeah.
It's because it was largely subsidized. Like government used to subsidize a part of its expenses. Like National Energy Distribution Company, it is under the Ministry of Finance. Every year, they provide the amount they need to modernize the system, but the Ministry of Finance cuts the budget, provides only for the operational expenses, but not like capital expenses. So capital expenses are for investments. Operational expenses are just to maintain the business.
Yeah.
So they used to receive just enough to maintain operational expenses, but never enough to invest and modernize anything. So that was the problem. Because it was subsidized and the ministry didn't want to spend so much from the budget, and because it had so many other things to take care of. So we were offering the government, hey guys, like you have to switch to the market economy where, you charge people like the real price. Like if you carry on like this, so very soon, like either you're gonna have to like exhaust your budget and like modernize everything from your budget, or again take a loan and do this, or just live without electricity. And
utility bills are actually really high in the city because sometimes my dad complains about it and it makes good money, but still complains.
yeah,
Right.
because we're used to it being so cheap.
Yeah.
Living in Europe, like electricity is so expensive, like all the energy, it's going to cost you so much. Like it's going to cost you half your rent, to be honest, especially in London, like it's crazy expensive. So people economize, people appreciate, like they don't put on electricity all the time, like it's so different. When I moved to London first, like they used to have one small lamp for the entire room. Like over here, like you feel like there is a sun in the room, to be honest. Like you feel like the sun is, shining in your room. Yeah. Over there, it used to be so dark. I'm like, hey, you guys are supposed to be so rich, but you're so poor. Like in your rooms, you don't have enough like light. But they were like, what do you need so much light for? Like, it's gonna hurt your eyes. It's bad for your eyes, especially in like bedrooms. Like the light in the bedroom is so low. Like in Europe. So they don't like to keep it very, very, bright in their rooms. And dining room, they also like to keep it low. And they economize so much, because electricity costs so much. And that's how it should be.
So you told me they spend half their salary to cover their utility bills.
No, half the rent.
Half the rent.
Yeah, rent is that much expensive. Half in London, it may go up to half in the winter season, but it can be it's usually 20 to 30% of your rent payment.
And how much is monthly rent there? Average monthly rent?
Okay, when I moved to London, I and my fellow Chevening scholar, two of us rented an apartment, a two-bedroom apartment, for 1,450 pounds, 1,450 pounds, and our monthly electricity bill in summer used to be like 250 to 300 pounds. But then when this Russia-Ukraine war started and Russian gas was not
Cut
being
off,
bought, it was
yeah.
cut off, and they were switching to alternative sources. When that happened, it was February, it was winter time, and we had to put on like heaters. Like our electricity costs used to go up to 500, 600 pounds. It was crazy, that much expensive.
That's almost $1,000.
I know.
That's $1,000 a month just for electricity and energy bills.
And
That's just crazy.
and it's hurtful when you go inside the home. You find out there are 3 rooms, like living room, kitchen, 2 bedrooms, and 1 bathroom. All of them have just one small lamp to light the room, and when you turn it on, it's so dark, and yet you pay so much. You're like, what's happening? What's going on?
I'm guessing you're always walking around with your flashlight on.
No. That didn't, like for studying, we used to get a special like lamp, desk lamp, because otherwise you may get blind. Like, but other than that, like, and we went into many houses, like many apartments in London. It was the same, like all across. Like they didn't have in offices. It's bright enough because it's like workplace. In study places, it's bright enough. But at home, they keep it very, very low. And I thought maybe it's just like that in London, but I was in many European cities, and I had some extended period of time in Vienna. I stayed in Vienna for some period of time, and it was the same in Vienna, like just one lamp, not like per room. Like in here, we have huge chandeliers. But I feel like if we go on our way of transition into market economy, like, and market mechanisms dictate the price, not the government anymore. Like people will automatically, they will become more conscious of saving energy, more conscious of their energy consumption habits, and they will try to cut, I think.
And how about like diversifying energy sources? Do you think it's happening anytime soon? Or has it already happened?
Yeah, there is some work in place going on. We largely, like more than 90% of our energy comes from burning gas. Like through burning gas, we generate electricity. Some small part of it comes from water electricity stations, but right now the focus was given by government onto switching to alternative energy. Many solar power stations, wind power stations were built up. So hopefully, if they start functioning in the coming years, we will have some diversity. Like we need this because we cannot rely on just gas. Like.
Because I actually heard they implemented a policy where all government buildings, as well as private entities, have to have solar panels on their rooftops.
Okay.
Like if we had them installed on our second campus, by the way, people came in and brought large panels, and I was really wondering what they were. I thought they were going to change the rooftop, but they turned out to be solar panels. Right. So you actually see them all over the city in a lot of the buildings here.
Yes.
Right.
That's actually very good. Yeah, I think it's very helpful to have them because, like you have the energy cutoff, you can rely on that, and also it's going to help you save a lot of energy. So I think it's very helpful to have them.
Yeah. Okay. One time I remember also talking to a guy who came down from Samarkand. It was off record, and he was an engineer, and he told me one of the biggest problems our country is facing right now is the energy crisis.
Yes.
Like people don't realize it. It's only if we're just a half a decade or so away from being officially into this problem and having energy crisis.
I mean, I think many countries already are. Like in Europe, for example, after the war started, when Russia cut off its energy exports, it was felt so much. Like there were restrictions in some countries. Like you couldn't heat up your home above some degrees, and the prices went up like crazy much. Like it was so much felt in Europe. I think in Uzbekistan this year is more or less okay, but because of what happened in 2023, like I think the government took some radical actions to change that. But as we saw in 2023, we were not also prepared for for meet such a huge energy consumption needs. So yeah, things have to change. And so when I just joined IFC back then, one of the things we were asked to work on was to bring in a private partner into one of the regions of Uzbekistan, where a private partner can take over the management of energy distribution, right? Because energy is like there are three stages related to energy: energy production, energy distribution, and I forgot the third one. So like there was something in between, like energy production, energy supply, and energy distribution, or something like that. So there are three stages, and the first two stages were more or less modernized. The only one that was left was distribution. So we were asked to bring in some company to take over a local distribution company of some region, so that they would implement some modern practices. They would bring in their expertise. They would modernize the system, and they would just implement real market mechanisms and start charging people like real amount it takes for running, efficiently.
In exchange for a share of the profit.
In exchange for concession, like so what we were proposing for the government was kind of like concession deal. Like that means private partner comes in, they work for like up to 30 years, and whenever they get their profit back, whenever they get their expenses back and whenever they profit after 30 years, they have to exit, but leaving everything as modern as it should be. So I don't know how that deal went through and whether it was successful, but like that's one of the things I was asked to work on when I just joined IFC in Tashkent. It was a very interesting project.
She's telling me about all these projects happening. That energy crisis we're talking about, this guy who came from Samarkand, actually he's from Bukhara, and he told me he was working at this private institute or university that was being set up, and he told me about how we're running out of gas and that we have to come up with new technology or diversify, or otherwise we're going to have serious issues like water shortage and gas problem. He's worried that next 5-10 years a lot of cities would have trouble. Not to mention blackouts in countrysides. It's actually happening in the city already. Like we have blackouts every other month, that frequently.
I mean, Russia has so much gas.
Mm-hmm.
It has no one to sell it to because the European market is locked up for Russia now. Mm-hmm. They're searching for people to sell their gas, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I understand we now depend on gas for most of our energy production, electricity production. We could just buy from them. I think there was some work being done to transit gas through Kazakhstan into Uzbekistan, but I don't know how that work progressed. But yes, we may run out of gas. We may not have gas to produce enough electricity, but we have someone to buy it from. We can just go and say, hey guys, just sell it, because they are selling so cheaply now because they don't have markets to export to. Europe, they are biggest importer, biggest customer is locked up. They're isolated. So we could go and get just gas from them if the gas is issue. I don't see it as an issue, to be honest. I see it a different way. Yes, we may run out of gas. We may not have enough gas in Uzbekistan, but we may go and buy from them. Not an issue.
There's also the geopolitics at play. Once Uzbekistan starts trading more with Russia, it might position yourself against the United States. And as a country that's always been neutral in this show, it's a risky move to take. So it's not like you're exporting apples or peaches, right? It's gas, it's energy you're talking about. So
I agree.
Slippery slope here.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you on that. But if you look at the numbers, Russia is one of the biggest trading partners already. I think China, it's either China number one or Russia. It's those two. One of them is number one, the other is number two. And the US and all of Europe have a clear understanding how dependent the economies of Central Asia are on Russia. how we have remittances coming in from them. They're already well aware. And as long as we're not helping them evade the sanctions, as long as we're not helping them evade the sanctions, right, we should be okay. I understand we cannot tie our economy on imports from Russia. It's going to make us vulnerable. But if we need it now, like if we just run out of gas and we don't have any way to get it from, we can get it from them. I'm not saying we should develop that economy which is going to be based on importing from Russia. All I'm saying is we can import from them, and meanwhile we can just carry on with our current agenda of developing alternative energy, because we want like most of our electricity to be energy to come from alternative sources, and we are doing impressive work on that. We have tons of, as I said, renewable energy sources like solar, wind, and so we should carry on our work in that direction. But what I'm saying is, it's not that much big of a concern to say that in 5-10 years, if we run out of gas, if we don't have any more gas exploration fields, like we're just gonna, I don't know, not have energy. Like, yes, by that time, hopefully we're gonna have already these power stations we're building in power running already. But if we still need gas, then there is a way of getting it. That's all I'm saying. But I'm not suggesting to be dependent on Russia's gas, for running our energy system, because we have a lesson to learn from Europe. Like, they have been dependent for so many years. They were slow on diversifying their sources, and how it turned out for them very badly, right? So lesson learned. We shouldn't repeat that mistake. We should focus on diversifying sources. But if we need the gas today or tomorrow, we have somewhere to get it from. That's my point.
Right. Well, it's good to know. Right. And more recently, you joined a company named Plug and Play. So what's this whole deal about? I've looked up their page online, and it's basically a venture investment company. So what is that? What does that mean, being a venture investment company? It's kind of a company that invests in startup businesses?
So Plug and Play has a very interesting story of how it came into existence. It's founded by Saeed Amidi, I think that's our founder and currently the owner, the CEO of our business. So he owned a lucky building in, I don't remember, in one of the states in the US. I already forgot. When I talk about these things, I have my slides on, so I can just look and say which state it was in, but I don't have it right now. So what happened was, Google came into that building, and they were located in that building for some time. And when he asked Google, hey, what are you guys up to? What are you doing? Google was like, oh, we are doing a business which is going to take over at least a third of the world's marketing. So he was like, okay, you guys are very ambitious. And so forth and so on. He kept hosting many people with bright ideas who later on became big success. But most of them didn't have enough money to keep paying their rent, to keep their offices alive. So what happened was he did kind of equity investments in the form of letting them not pay rent. So if you have to pay, let's say, $10,000 this month and you don't pay it, so that means he's getting whatever is the worth equivalent of $10,000 into your shares. So he hosted the likes of Dropbox, Google, so many big companies. And when those companies went big, when they went into IPO, those small investments became millions and millions and millions of dollars. And he was like, hey, if I could do this with my just one lucky building, what would I do? What would happen if I work with so many startups? So he went on to buy a building in Silicon Valley, where our HQ is located now. So then he started hosting startups into his building, and he founded Plug and Play as more of venture capital company, to invest in startups wherever he sees opportunities. He saw opportunities, but later, hanging out with these startup founders and all these people, he found out that, and he had so many good connections with people. He felt like he could become an innovation platform for those startups. So what he did was he opened corporate innovation. So he used his links, he leveraged his links with big corporates whenever they needed So a corporate has an issue. It wants to do R&D. It wants to develop some product. It wants to make something more efficient, HR processes, whatever process it is. And there is a startup which is very talented, full of ideas. So he just connects those two, and then corporation ends up hiring the startup for solving whatever the problem it is, outsources the startup, and startup proposes a solution, comes up with a solution, and that's how they started working. So he founded Plug and Play, which evolved from a venture capital company into innovation platform where we connect startups with corporates, where we do startup acceleration and incubation programs. Because where do startups come from? They come from universities. So at universities, we do incubation programs. We educate people into becoming into becoming founders of startups. And with startups, we educate their founders into becoming, into being able to pitch their ideas to venture capital funds. We prepare them. We run acceleration programs of 3 months, where we invite mentors like global experts to come and educate local startups and teach them how to develop business model, how to develop financial models for their business, how to run business efficiently, how to develop their pitch deck so that they can go and we teach them to talk to venture capital funds. But at the end of the acceleration program, we actually connect them with venture capital funds where they have a chance to pitch their ideas into them. So they can sell their ideas and hopefully find investor who's going to invest into their idea. Because with startups, it's all about investing into somebody's idea, having faith that that person's idea is going to turn into billions in the future, and like investing into someone's idea. So yes, those are the 3 main pillars of Plug and Play, so acceleration programs, like including incubation, etc., for startups. Corporate innovation, connecting corporates with startups so that corporates can outsource startups to resolve issues, to develop, to do R&D, and so forth and so on. And finally, venture capital, where we invest and also help to invest. Like we manage funds, we scout startups for investment, we do advisory and all sorts of things. We have an office in Uzbekistan. To my understanding, it was built in 2022. Like it was, decision was made to open it in 2022, but it started in 2023. I may be a bit wrong on timeline. Again, I have them on my presentation slides, so it's off my memory right now. But yeah, I think it came into existence at the end of 2022 because we did one program in 2022 and then in 2023. So now they want to scale up their operations, Plug and Play in Uzbekistan, and that's why they hired me as a director, because they didn't have a director before. They just had people on the field doing the job. They were managed out of Frankfurt. Now they want to establish local footprint. They want to expand into like neighboring countries, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and I don't know, maybe perhaps even Turkmenistan, if opportunities show up. So that's why they are scaling up their operations. They hired the director, so I'm a director there now. And now we are trying to expand our operations and find new growth opportunities in the region.
Right, so agencies like yours are quite new in this market. Like before companies like yours came along and set up shop here, people usually relied on their relatives, friends to invest in their business, right? They'd go to their mom, dad, or asking them to invest their life saving into their business idea.
Yeah,
and not everyone may have that opportunity. So
that's what you're talking about is called angel investing. And angel investing, still it comes from relatives. So there are various stages of startups. So there is a pre-seed stage where you have just the idea but no execution plan, nothing. You don't have budget, money, anything. That's when you need those angel investors. Like you have your friends, family friends, mother, father, whoever. That's when most of the VCs don't invest in you. They don't invest in you when you're at this stage. VCs, they don't.
Oh, what's a VC?
VC is a venture capital fund, sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah.
VC is a venture capital fund. They don't invest in you when you are a pre-seed. Like most of them, not all of them, but most of them don't invest in you when you're a pre-seed. Like imagine me coming up to you and saying, you run a fund, right? You're you pulled in money from people to whom you are accountable, you are held accountable for. And I come to you and say, hey, my friend, I have a brilliant idea. I want to create this platform, like whatever it is, like delivery platform, this and that. And I have a team, but I just don't have money. Would you invest in me? Like you would probably say, like, did you do anything? Like, did you already create your platform? Are you doing trial, demo test? How is it going? Do you have any revenue? Like, no. You give me money, and tomorrow I bring together the team, and then we start working. Like, VCs don't take that kind of, they cannot burn their investors' money into this sort of ideas. What they do is, when you already get some money from your angel investors, from your own savings, from your parents, from your friends, family, etc., and you already create a platform, you're doing some demo in your neighborhood, in your city, in your region, and you are being successful, and then you come with a presentation, and then you pitch your idea to the VC. VC goes like, okay, in 6 months after you created the platform, your revenue grew from $1,000 into $15,000. That's impressive. And I see that you have a future. So that's the seed stage. So you already like invested, etc. So then VC may say, okay, I will invest in you. But at the pre-seed, it's still gonna be, as you said, like angel investors are gonna be mostly, like people who know you, people who have faith in you, because VCs, it's hard for them to have faith in anyone at the pre-seed stage because they are held accountable before their investors. But that said, I also want to talk about one VC, specifically in Uzbekistan, Aloqa Ventures. So Aloqa Ventures is a VC created under the Aloqa Bank. And they are doing quite an impressive thing. So they came up with a startup garage, and it's like they selected startups, they selected ideas like pre-seed, and they're investing into those pre-seed ideas, and they're doing kind of like angel investing because they believe they will become unicorns. So like very few people do this. I believe, my opinion, again, my subjective opinion, I believe why they did it is because we don't have startups like good enough to invest, so they have to nurture it from the idea stage. Because I think, I'm not sure again, I think with Aloqa Ventures or like local VCs, they have a mandate of investing locally only, and if that's the case, and if they have to burn that amount of money, and if they can't burn it if they can't find startups good enough, then what choice do they have? They will go and just get people who have ideas and sit with them, help them nurture the idea into implementation. Because, why do I think so? Because I spoke with other VCs active in the market, based in Uzbekistan, but who have a mandate of investing beyond Uzbekistan, and they invested only in a handful of startups in Uzbekistan. And I was like, why? Why don't you invest in small VCs? And they were like, small startups, like at pre-seed stage. They're like, well, how am I gonna report to my shareholders? Like, what am I gonna say to them if I burn their money on pre-seed ideas? Like, I can't do that. So that's why they went to Caucasus, they went to Kazakhstan, and then they tried to find quality startups and invested into that. So unless you have someone like very patriotic or someone with like mandate to invest only locally, and that they are like pushed into investing locally, like it's very hard to find your angel investor from VCs, like from venture capital funds. So that's just to give you a bit of heads up on how the situation is like, because as you said, most people to give a start to their ideas, they borrow money from their relatives. And even though VCs come into the market, unless they're driven by other motives than just profit making, it's gonna continue to be the same.
So you're basically letting small businesses leverage your network and access to people, resources in exchange for some share in the company. Is that what's happening?
No, we are partnering with IT Park. IT Park is under the Ministry of Digital Technologies. They're our main partner, founding partner, in fact, because we came to Uzbekistan with their invitation. And they want us to be present in Uzbekistan and to help startups grow. So we are not getting any share in exchange for any services we are doing for the startups, but whatever we are doing for the startups is being sponsored and financed by IT Park. IT Park is our sponsor for those activities. But if we invest, if we go like in venture capital, then yes, we want a share of your business if we invest. And we have invested in the region. We have 3 investments so far. So one in EdTech, the other is in health tech, I think. And then the third one was AgTech.
You guys ever considered investing in an education center like ours?
Yes, we have an investment in EdTech. And as I said, most of our, because it's so much related to IT, we consider investing into like online platforms. Even, I don't know if you heard about, there was this Ukrainian platform, I can't remember, something with P. IFC invested into them. When I was at IFC, we invested into them. Let me check.
Sure, take your time.
EdTech platform. Can't remember their name. Pla something. Okay, whatever they are. So what they do is they run English language courses, any type of courses, but everything is online. And so that's called EdTech. So if you do something similar, then yes, you might be considered for investment.
So you wouldn't consider it if we decided to simply branch out of physical building, like offline learning, not online learning. Would that be considered a risky investment, and why?
No, not at all. I mean, would that be considered like IT startup? Because that's our focus, like IT startup.
Oh, I see. So your objectives, your focus don't align with
Yes, because we want needs. Innovation. Like this mode of teaching is very conventional, very traditional. I mean, it is worth for what it is. Like we don't, but just it's not our area of expertise.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Totally, I get it. So. Right. And what do you think are the implications of ChatGPT in all this, like all financial analysis and database decision making? Because now that you have this technology, do you think there's still need for, agencies like yours, aside from getting businesses in touch with people with power and resources, like in terms of, making analysis and market projections? Can you just drop raw data on ChatGPT and ask it do analysis for you, then hire a company or individual such as you?
Yes, absolutely. But I don't know how extensively you have been exposed to using ChatGPT, because what ChatGPT does is so it's about big data. Big data is so useful because you want to get access to it. Like when you have tons of data and you analyze things, it's going to give you some tangible, really good results. And ChatGPT, if you are a human, you will take forever to go through the list to make anything. ChatGPT does it at your fingertips like that, just in a few seconds. But are those results accurate? How accurate they are? If you used ChatGPT before, I used it extensively, and in some cases it gave wrong results because it was just based on internet, whatever was in the internet. Let's say if you have 2 teams going against each other, and on the internet, if it finds more of, it's gonna do analysis of all qualitative, quantitative, all that sort of data, and it's gonna find more arguments in support of one team winning over the other. Then it's going to go for that. Although this team may be doing way better and it may turn out to be a winner. So AI is great, but it's not developed to the stage where it can be without any human supervision and it can yield all the accurate results. And speaking of us being replaced by AI, I don't think that's possible, at least of all at this stage, because we connect the bridges. We are the bridge between corporates and startups, right? Like we have very good connections with, for example, car manufacturers in Germany, because Germany is specialized in cars, right? So we have Autobahn center in there. So whenever they need any kind of, whenever those corporates need any kind of outsourcing, any kind of R&D or any kind of innovation, we go and select the best startups based on their needs. And like that at this stage, that cannot be done by AI, because you need to be able to, you need to be able to do some work with those startups. Like you need to see how good the founder is. It's not just you have criteria against their, specification. It's just, it requires a lot of human interaction, because startups, they are very much driven, and startups, they're very much based on founders' ambitions, founders' motivations, like where the founder is going. Like whenever you speak with the founder, like it's very critical. You already see where the startup is going. And like some founders, they may be geniuses, but they may not be able to be good with financial sides, with financial aspects. They may not be able to good with showing their result. They may lack those skills, right? But they may be brilliant guys who are gonna, who you believe are going to become like very successful. But AI is not going to evaluate that. AI is going to tell you, looking at the numbers, looking at what they have, okay, we don't believe they're going to succeed. But on the other hand, you as a human can see what AI can't see, and you can tell, okay, I believe he's going to be successful. He just needs training in this, and that area. So as you see, AI is evolving, and I'm sure it's going to replace many jobs in the coming years. I believe that, but I don't think it's advanced enough to do that just yet.
Right. And would you say there is also a little bit of a faith element in what you do in your business, like when you're evaluating a company, its performance, and deciding to invest? Is there any room for just, some people call it blind optimism, right? So is there any room for optimistic view?
Okay, so
based off of, say, the founders' energy, based off of their dreams and ambitions, based off of how unique their ideas are.
Yes.
Do you give them the benefit of the doubt, even their financial sheets don't look that promising?
Okay, on that, my answer to that is gonna be my personal view on this topic, and not relate. So I'm not gonna speak on behalf of any corporation. Okay, I'm gonna just give my personal view on that. When you're working with startups, I think most of the decisions you make are based on your gut feelings. Not even numbers. I mean, numbers are important. All that is important, but most of what you make is going to be based on gut feelings, because it's a startup.
Yeah.
Like, when you're making investment into a mature company like Coca-Cola, you can track back their history to 50, 100 years ago, see all their financials, look at how they've been doing, run regressions, run all the analysis, and then see, you can value what they're worth, what their future growth is worth, like whether they are undervalued in the market, whether they're overvalued in the market, and make your investment accordingly, right? But when it comes to a startup, like you're gonna have a history of 3 months, 6 months, or what, like maximum year, few years, and like with startups, like you cannot just go through the numbers and then decide, because their numbers can be 1 month they may be earning 0 profits, next month can be plus 100,000, next month might be minus 200,000, and like numbers. I mean, yeah, they're gonna show you something, but most of what you do is gonna be based on, as I said, your faith in aligning with their vision. Like you are into a market, you see where the demand is growing, you see where the trends are going, and you make decisions based on that. Like if you feel like, so some guy is coming and telling you, hey, I'm creating ChatGPT for Uzbekistan. It's gonna be AI for Uzbek people. Like, are you gonna invest in that? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, it's as if someone coming and saying, I'm creating Google for Uzbekistan. Okay, so what? It's not innovative. Like, you can use Google in Uzbekistan. Why would you need another Google for Uzbekistan?
Yeah.
Like, do you have resources of Google? Do you have, like, what do you have of Google where you can do better than Google? Like, nothing. Like, you don't have like, you don't have a team as experienced as theirs. You don't have a budget of equivalent to them. Like, it's not innovative enough. If someone comes and says they're creating their own Google, their own ChatGPT for Uzbekistan, why would anyone use your ChatGPT for Uzbekistan when they can go and use the actual ChatGPT?
Exactly. Right.
So, you see, it doesn't make sense. Even though his numbers may be good, like, numbers may not be sustainable. I mean, they may be good for a few months, but I don't think they're going to be good forever. But if they're going to come and give an idea of something very applicable, something you believe is needed in the market, where you think they can succeed, then yes. Then, yeah.
I totally get the part where you made analogy about the Uzbek version of Google, because sometimes I get pitched ideas by IT guys about having a platform for our school where students can upload their assignments and teachers can check them, and students get their assignments from their teachers on the same platform. And my reaction is usually like, why not just use Telegram to do it? You can just set up a channel. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Or you can, like, I'm sure there are so many platforms and softwares available. Yeah. I'm sure you can download one of them. Like, there must be something.
Yeah.
Like, which can tailor your needs. You can pay them, I don't know, you can pay for the subscription of $5 to $10 a month, rather than paying some thousands of bucks into developing this platform. I mean,
from scratch, right?
I mean, if you feel like you need a platform, if like you feel like, okay, you want to get this platform, you can go Google something and tailor something for your needs and use that, rather than, you know, to go develop it from scratch, because it's going to have so many bugs. You're going to need someone to take constant care of it, constantly update, fix those bugs. Like, it's not worth the investment. I mean, I would understand if you want to open another line of business and go online. Like, you may want to, like, start teaching online and like expand your geographics from just Bukhara to like all of Republic, all of Uzbekistan firstly, and then into the wider region. Okay, that is a investment worth considering. But just for students uploading something, teachers checking, come on.
Yeah, that's not really worth it.
I wouldn't make that investment, I mean.
Right. So where do you see now your career headed? How long do you see yourself in the business of venture capital? Like, do you see yourself, I mean, yeah, sure, you can't probably speak for next 5-10 years, but do you hope to have your own company one day?
That's a very hard question to answer, to be honest, because...
Or you think it's better to work for a company? Have this, guaranteed income?
Okay, one thing life taught me through various experiences is go with the flow, to be honest, because I made so many plans throughout my life which didn't turn out, which didn't go the way I wanted, but later, better things came for me. Like, immediately after graduation, I wanted to go and do masters in the US. I got Fulbright scholarship, but due to family circumstances, I could not leave, and it was so unfortunate. I felt so bad about it because, like, not every day you get a Fulbright scholarship to go to the US, right? And I had to decline, like I had to reject from that. But later, Chevening scholarship came out, right? 3 years later. And Chevening gave me an opportunity to study at the top 10 in the world, which went into my resume and secured me my employment with the likes of EBRD, IFC, and later becoming a director of plug-and-place office in Uzbekistan. Like, maybe for like Fulbright scholarship at some US university wouldn't give me such a great experience. So, and when I was doing internship at the EBRD, I wanted so much to get a real job at the EBRD, but it didn't work out for me. I got an offer at the World Bank. I mean, I got an offer at the EBRD as well, but offer at the World Bank came even better. It was so much better, so much more interesting. So I went with the World Bank. So as you see, I plan one thing, something else comes up, and it's just, so that's why what I did was, rather than stressing out about my future, I just take it as it goes. So one thing I'd like to tell right now is, yes, I'm working for a company, but as a director for Central Asia, I'm given so much independence and so much flexibility. Like, I can direct my own work right now, and it's so much business driven in these private companies. Like, when you make sales, when you get a contract, when you bring new clients, when you bring this or that, you get commissions from those contracts. So it's as if you're running your own business, because when you bring in a student, when you bring in a client to your education center, you have to pay your teachers, you have to pay your rent, you have to pay your bills, you have to pay this and that. All of that goes out. Whatever remains is your profit or loss, whatever remains to you. And for me, it's the same. Whenever I bring in a client, I have my commission, which is my P&L, and the rest goes to expenses, so forth and so on. So I share profit with the company. So it's very much like business driven with the private companies. So, and if you're running your own business, you are at risk of going into deep losses. That's like if you run out of students, you don't have anything. On the other hand, over here, besides commissions, I have my fixed part of my salary where I like in summer where students stop coming because they in my experience of teaching, summer used to be kind of like slow period for us because most students already want a break. They go and already take exams, and September is like a period where things start to heat up again. So those were the survival periods for me in my experience of running a learning center. So summer months used to be survival months, right? And if you are an owner and you don't have a fixed salary, right, then it's a bit of an issue for you because you may go into loss. But on the other hand, with me now, I have my fixed part, and then whatever else I do for the company, I get commission. So they set it up, structure in such a good way that you feel as if you're running your own business, but then you don't have a downside, so you feel safe, but you want to build up sales because whenever upside comes, you benefit from it. You have a skin in the game. So that's why right now it's something new for me, because with IFC and EBRD, such structures don't exist. They are very much like you are on a fixed salary regime. And of course, you may receive individual performance awards, you may receive team performance awards, you may receive, you receive once a year some additional kind of stuff. But whenever you close a project, you close a deal, yes, you may get prizes if your deal is one of the best, but you don't get commissions for every deal you close. So
it feels like a dead-end corporate job.
Yes.
With no future prospects.
Yeah,
Right.
Perhaps, yeah, but you are paid very well already. So
Okay.
your monthly salary is already good enough. So, but on the other hand, over here, you feel like you're running the business, you're driving it, because you have a skin in the game. Whenever you land a client, you land a project, you're happy because you're receiving some profit from it. So because it's structured that way, it already feels like you own your own company and you're running. It feels as if you're running your own firm. About the future, because I recently got this job, I hope to stay here for, I don't know, if we are successful enough, if we keep growing, if we keep building up our sales pipeline very well in the region, I don't see any reason why I would like to leave it, because I like everything so far. But yeah, if the opportunity shows up to found something of my own, I think I would leverage that at some point in the future. So, yeah.
Right, yeah. It sounds very sensible. Right, we did quite a bit of talking about your job, your career, past. Now, what do you say we talk a little bit about your pastimes? What do you find yourself when you're not working or involved in any of those projects?
So when you have family, you feel like you want to spend time with your family.
Yeah.
So whenever you have free time, you want to spare that time with your family, because especially that I was overseas mostly for the past few years. Now that I'm mostly in Uzbekistan, whenever I get free time, I try to come home and spend that time around my family, with my mom, with my grandma, with my wife. So 4 of us live together. And then if I'm home early enough, one of the things we do, one of the habits we developed, I didn't like it so much at the beginning, but my mom took us out a couple of times to the theater, real live theater, and I started liking it so much. The other day I came home and they offered, hey, can we go out to watch theater? Everyone was like, what? You want to go watch theater? I was like, yeah. like when you go watch movie, it's a different vibe. But when you watch a theater, it's real people doing live performance. It feels so much different. I did not realize that until I've been to one. So the last time we've been to, it was so good. Like the people were singing old Uzbek classics. And because my wife is like 5-6 years old younger than me, I was like teaching her, hey, like as if I'm 50 years older, I was teaching, hey, you know this music? Like this is from someone, this is from that. And it's like, I like the vibe so much. So going out to theater, I would say once a week. And the other thing I have always liked in my life is taking a stroll. Like whenever I feel like I want to come home from work, I take a walk a little bit, because especially when the weather is cold, I mean, not that cold, but it's like refreshing. Like it gives you a bit of time to switch from work mode into home mode, you know, when you refresh yourself, like forget about your job and then focus more on your cares at home. So walking is something I love a lot. And when I was in Europe, I used to do that very often, because over here we have cabs, taxis, cars, everyone drives around, but in Europe you mostly take public transport to reach to your destination. So yeah, with the headset on, taking a walk, especially if the weather is like good enough, which helps you affect your mood. So you are like, you turn off your work mode and turn on your home mode and come home like fresh, like in good mood, and then interact with people. The other thing I like doing, but which I'm not unfortunately doing right now, is sports. I don't know if you remember, but when we went
Yeah, actually, one of the first reaction I had when I saw you earlier today is like, he used to be in great shape. Like, he's still in shape these days.
I used to be very fit back then.
Yeah.
But then I received some injuries, on my arm, and then I got into the ministry. The work schedule was like super hectic. Like I had to stay at work until 12 a.m., midnight, like 1 a.m. Oh, it was crazy. So because of that, I did not find time to actually exercise a lot. But still, I tried to exercise. When I was in London, when I moved to London to do my master's, I found quite a good amount of time. I used to spare a good amount of time for my exercising. But now again, I'm not being able to allocate much time to it. And with the new job, I'm still adapting to its schedule, how to work it out. So one of the things I want to get back to is training, fitness. Before I used to work out and do heavy lifting at gym, but now it's more of focus is switched to more of fitness, keeping fit, being healthy. So doing more of cardio exercises and all that. So that's one thing I like doing. I want to be doing. I used to be doing, but I'm not doing right now. But hopefully I will be doing soon.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exercise is great. It makes you feel awesome.
Yeah. It makes you feel, especially if you do it in the morning, you feel refreshed, you feel full of power, and it's so amazing. And then I'm sure you must be aware of my passion for football, for Real Madrid.
Yeah.
I'm
you still a fan? You still watch soccer?
I still do. Yeah. I mean, I don't watch each one of their games these days, unfortunately, but at least I watch the highlights of the game. I keep track of their results. But if it's an important game, if it's a big game against, like, say, Barcelona or like PSG or some UEFA Champions League game, then yes, I find time to watch it.
I'm not actually that into soccer, but recently I heard one Uzbek guy got transferred to Manchester City.
Yes.
And ever since I've been hooked, right? I'm following this guy.
Soccer, it's football. Come on.
Americans say soccer, British say football. So.
American football is not real football.
Yeah, right. Sure. I'm going to say football then. Abdur Hasanov, I forgot his first name.
Yes.
Husanov.
Yeah. People say he's amazing. I mean, I haven't seen him play, to be honest. But I heard that Real Madrid was scouting, keeping an eye on him, but Manchester City got him. Like, it's amazing that we have talents conquering Europe right now. Like, that's amazing, because how long have we been trying to go to the World Championship? I don't know. Like, since I was born, I remember this topic. But hopefully, with such lads now, playing in Europe, getting to the standards of Europe, hopefully we will be able to secure at least participation in the World Championship, I hope.
I mean, last year we hosted futsal in Uzbekistan, so I think we're close.
Oh yeah,
I think we're
yeah, yeah,
close.
yeah.
Futsal was, they had a few events here in Bukhara.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was big. That was
Okay,
big. So,
that's very nice.
huge.
Yeah, and then I I don't follow boxing, but like I watch recaps of some fights, like Usyk, Fury, or I also. But one of the things I watch live these days is MMA, because of this Khabib and his team, right? Like they became so popular, so I kind of. Whenever their fight happens, I watch it because it happens in the morning our time,
Yeah.
when it's nighttime in the US. And also a good part of it is most of their fights happen like on the night from Saturday to Sunday. So it's kind of Sunday morning over here. So that's a good time to watch it. So if that's happening, then that's the one I watch live online. So yeah, those are my pastimes, I believe.
Yeah. Cool, cool, right? I imagine it's hard to make any time for recreation and spending time with family, you running company, and having all these responsibilities on your shoulder, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I try to balance it, to be honest. I like when I worked at the ministry, work was too much. It was overloading, and I almost didn't have any time left for my private life. Like it was just work, 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 work. No work-life balance, and I learned my lesson from that. Like I try to make sure that the work doesn't overtake my time for my personal things. So I try to make sure that I allocate enough time for my personal stuff as well. So I try to plan accordingly. Like I don't work on weekends. Like even at IFC, something urgent comes, like I did not used to respond. Like if anyone, no one, it didn't actually happen anytime, but like if anyone would came to me and said like, why aren't you responding on Sunday? I would say it's Sunday, right? It's Saturday, like it's a weekend. It didn't happen. It's never happened to me, but I know that some colleagues, they used to respond even on weekend, even at the weekends, but I used to just, ignore anything that comes on the weekend or on the weekdays. Like, I don't know, like I would say I come home around like between 7 to 8 unless I have some business dinner. But like I do my very best to try to balance things out.
You have that very French mentality. Like people say, Americans live to work and French work to live.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like work shouldn't take over.
Yeah, but when I was in the U.S., I saw complete opposite of what you're
Yes.
describing. Like people are so work driven, so work driven. That's one of the things I developed. I find myself working. I don't remember when was the last time I took any proper weekend, not to mention vacation, right? Because something I saw when I was in the U.S., I used to work alongside a bunch of Italians,
Yes.
and they love work.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. America is a capitalist country, so they try. If they're paying you hourly, they try to squeeze every cent they're paying out of you. And I don't like that mentality, to be honest. I mean, yes, you should be dedicated to work, you should focus on your work, but if you're delivering what you expected to deliver, then like you shouldn't live with it. Like it happened to me when I was working at the ministry. One of my colleagues, who is a married man who has a couple of children, he was complaining that he doesn't see enough of his children. He doesn't know how they're growing up. All he sees is the four walls of the work. And that was a bit sad to hear. And I was like, okay, that made me realize, okay, I have to change something. Like, I can't carry on like this because, I mean, I want to see, like, when I get married, like, when I have a family, I want to be able to grow my kids. I want to be able to teach them stuff, because, like, that's important. Like, if it's, like, there is a part played by father and a part played by mother. Of course, mother is a central figure, but then father also has a role to play in that process. So I feel like, like kids need to get what they need to get from their father. So that's when I started to think of a change in career. So I pursued scholarships. That was a drive behind all these things. I went to EBRD, IFC. I mean, with EBRD, IFC, they are international financial institutions. They would not push you to work beyond the working hours unless like it's something very important. Like usually they're on a chill vibe, they're on a relaxed mode. Like you have like how to say, no, deadlines which are like justifiable, and but with the government you have some task and it's due yesterday, and you're like, what? Like it's already out of date. Like I had to deliver yesterday when I didn't even know about that
In
task. Like,
negative 24 hours.
yes. That doesn't make sense. But at IFC, whenever you're given a task, you're given a week, 2 weeks, or something like that. And since we are at Plug and Play, also international company, so we try to keep it cool. Like we don't try to like squeeze everything out of our employees. Because I come from IFC and EBRD with that background, I'm also trying to keep the same policy with people here. So I'm trying to balance my own life and work, and trying to do the same with the people on the ground.
And that's also something I'm now starting to realize now that I'm in my mid-20s. Like, you need that family connection and relationships for your sanity. Like, it can't be all about work, because I used to be that hardcore in my early 20s, honestly. I just go without seeing my family for months.
Wow.
And there would be, despite the fact that we lived under the same roof. Can you imagine?
What?
Under the same roof, and there's one point my dad wasn't having it, and he pulled me aside and was like, it can't go on anymore. Right? It can't happen.
Yeah, he did the right thing.
It did, but I ignored them anyway. I went on to work for a few years like that, and only it's last year and this year now showing up to family parties and spending time with them. Because I once read a quote that really struck a chord with me, and the quote goes, your family don't need presents. They want you to be present.
That's right.
They don't need presents. They want you to be present in their lives. Your kids don't need your presence. They want you to be present in their lives.
Exactly. So,
Right.
I mean, we work so hard, we earn so much. For whom is that all? Like, for the family, right?
Right.
Like, family needs you to financially provide them, but they also need you to morally provide them to, sometimes we focus so much on work that we make so much money that we start affording luxuries for our family, but that's not what they need, right? Not the luxuries. What they may appreciate more is us spending more time with them.
And more genuine connections.
Exactly.
Not like superficial talks.
Not at
Yeah.
all. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there is a period in every man's life, I think, when he's laying foundation on his career, because we are supposed to be breadwinners for our families, right? So when you're laying that foundation, I believe it may be okay for you to work like 20 plus hours out of 24, because that's what I did when I was at the ministry. Like, ministry was the foundation for my later career growths, because when I got into Plug and Play, they wanted to hire me as a director because I had so many connections in Uzbekistan with the local authorities, with public sector, with private sector. I was so well connected, and that was a big plus for me to get a job. So and also with the EBRD, with IFC, they hired me because I understood so well their structures, how they support, governments, how they support countries with various instruments. So it was very critical. So that part of my life, I also worked so much. But I went home just to sleep, not even have dinner, because I used to have dinner at work. Like, there were times when just guys brought over some fast food. I did not even stand up. I just ate, threw away, and continued working. It was that much tense. I still remember. That's when I put on a lot of weight, actually, to be honest. But I think at the end of the day, it was worth it. And I made my exit in the needed time. When the time was due, I made my exit. But I did just enough to lay myself a good foundation, firm foundation, which is now serving me, to keep growing into my career. And now I can afford myself spending enough time with my family, because in the needed time, I worked hard enough.
Right.
So, yeah, so you did the same. You founded this place, you worked very hard, you achieved 9, you became the best, one of the best at what you do. And now that you are at the top of your game, at the top of your league, right? Now you can afford yourself to spend more time with your family. But that said, we shouldn't just think we are at top of our leagues and stop improving ourselves.
But something else I've come to learn about myself, I do quite a bit of self-observation, like because since I'm single, when I get home after work, I'm just sitting and thinking after dinner. Everyone's asleep, right? There's nothing interesting on your phone because you've seen pretty much all the videos there is to see on the internet. And then you sit and think about yourself and your whole existence. And I imagine a future where I can just come home on the weekends, spend time with wife and kids and all that. I try imagining it, but I can't. It's to the point where I feel like maybe it's just the case with some people where they don't have an off button. They just keep going and going and going, and they simply find more meaning in doing the grind that a lot of people opt out of because they've passed a certain age, right? It's as if admitting defeat, like I'm tapping out. I'm good. You can have the show, guys.
No. I fully get what you're saying.
And there's that thought too, that lingering in the back and doesn't let you rest.
Yes. I get what you mean. So it happened to me too. When I was at the ministry. So I was earning just enough to connect the ends for myself. I did not have any flat to live. Like I was living at my uncle's, at my brother's flats. So I wasn't even renting anything out. I wouldn't have been able to afford a rent even. Like the salary was enough just to connect ends for myself. And my family was like, hey, you're getting old enough, now we have to get you married, this and that. And I was like, hey, I don't feel like marrying right now. I feel like I'm too young. I feel like I want to enjoy my youthhood yet. And also, I don't think I can afford to have a family right now. But then this Chevening thing happened. I moved to London and etc. So when you are away, so in Uzbek we call it musafir, right? This when you feel so lonely, and when you feel like if you had a companion, someone to share everything with, it would just go so much better for you. And everyone will come to it. Like at some point, you will just start wanting it. Like I understand. Before that happened to me, I did not want it at all. They were showing me candidates, options. Like, hey, would you consider this girl, that girl? I was like, no, I'm not interested. And then at some point, I don't know, it just happens that you start wanting it. You feel like you want someone by your side. You feel like you want someone backing you. Like you feel like you need that person in your life with whom you can share how your day went. You feel like, at the weekend when you want to go out, you have that person to go out with. You can share all the moments together. And when that happens to you, you start wanting it. Like after London, I was the one initiating it. I was like, hey guys, find me someone. But interestingly enough, options I was shown didn't work out for me. So I ended up finding one myself. So as you see, I'm sure you will come to that point as well when you just realize what you're missing out on and you'll just want it on your own. I mean, I hope it will happen.
Yeah.
It happens to you.
Yeah, right. I feel it coming. But not unless I stop having these podcasts, because I have now people like you keeping my company.
Right. I mean, I'll be happy to keep in contact with you even after the podcast. So no problem.
Sure. Now, I guess we've been on for a little over 2 hours, almost
Wow.
2.5 hours.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, time flies here. Time flies in this room.
I mean, it didn't feel like 2.5 hours, to be honest.
Right. So usually what we do to wrap up the podcast is talk a little philosophy, and I have 3 questions I want to get to before we wrap things up.
All right.
And you can give an extended answer or keep it brief if you want, however you like it. So you kind of touched on these questions before, but I would really want to get more clear-cut answers to the questions I'm about to ask you. So my first question here is, how would you describe your personal philosophy in life at this point in time? I really want to add this part here because only now I'm starting to realize that people's philosophy changes as they, get older, having had so many guests on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know, man.
Go with the flow. You kind of already said it.
Yeah. I mean, we have to understand the essence of life, right? Like, I'm not like each and every one of us has our own view to this world. We view it the way we view it, and it can be so much different. Like, we have people believing in God. We have atheists who don't believe in God at all. Like, the concept, the idea of God doesn't make sense to them. Like, everything has to be rational. There has to be rational behind everything for them. And whatever we believe in, we build our philosophy around that. So I believe in God. I'm a firm believer in God. And through various experiences in my life, my faith in God just kept increasing and increasing and increasing. So what I would say is, for me, understanding the essence of life is important so that I can build my philosophy around it. So I ask myself a question, like, what was I created for? Like, what is my purpose of life? What do I want to achieve? Like, because based on that, you build your philosophy, and based on that, you do everything. And I've been trying to find an answer to that for a while, and I just found out that the answer is, I mean, for me as a believer, right? It's just written out straight in Quran, like, which says that we created you for, like, praising us, for worshiping us. It says, like, Allah says that in the Quran. So I was like, okay, so the goal of my life, the essence, I was created. So my belief is that I'm a slave, which was created by God, and the reason I was created is to worship Him. And worshiping Him doesn't mean just only praying, only, reading Quran, just praying and reading tasbih, zikr, all of that. It means living your life according to Sharia. Like, if you are going out, earning money, providing for your family, this is already a worship. You're already worshiping, because this is one of the things you are, this is one of your duties. This is one of the things you are supposed to do. So you just continue living your life the way you do, but you do it because our Creator, God, like, created us to do those things. So I started looking at things from that philosophy, from that objective, and I started learning Sharia to understand better the things I do. Like, what are the things I need to do to please God? What are the things I don't need to do so that, I don't make a sin? So after having that clear border, like, clear line of what's acceptable and what's not, I'm just trying to build my philosophy around that. Okay, every morning I wake up, and what do I need to do? The first thing I need to say is I need to thank God for waking me up, because sleep is like, when you sleep, you're almost like half dead. So you wake up, you need to thank God. You need to thank God because you have so many, like, blessings. You can see, you can talk, you can hear, you do this, you have that. And then you look around, what you see is you see people around you, because we are Uzbeks, like, we live in families. And you have to be thankful that you have so many people. Allah, like, God bless you with so many nice things. What do you do next is you go out, you pray your morning prayer, and then you have a breakfast. Why? Because you are responsible for keeping this body, right? You are responsible even for that, because this body itself is a blessing. Then you go out to work. Why do you work? You want to make changes, you want to ease people's life, and you want to earn money to provide for your family. Again, this is worship. So life goes on like that. So my philosophy is do what pleases God. And when I say do what pleases God, or when we talk about worship, worshiping is such a broad definition. Unfortunately, these days when we talk about worshiping, people have a very narrow understanding of it. They just think going and praying at mosques or just reading Quran, that's only the worshiping is. Yeah, it's a part of worshiping, but it's so wide. Like, when you go out, you remove obstacle from the road, you are worshiping God. Like, you see, like, so my philosophy around life is based on that. Like, I try to learn how I need to live my life from Islamic Shariat, and I just try to follow that. That's, like, all I do. Like, and I go with the flow, like, because, as I said, I made many plans in the past, and it didn't happen for me, but something better came later. So I believe that everything has its perfect time. What I do is, when I want something, I keep making dua, I keep asking for it, I keep making calls as a human, because if you just keep asking and don't back it up with any action, of course it means you don't deserve to get it. I ask for it, I do my cause, I back it up with my action to the best of my ability, If it happens for me, I'm happy for it because what I asked happened for me. If it doesn't happen for me, I'm happier because I know what God wanted for me is happening. So that's how I take it. So I go with the flow, and that's my philosophy of life.
Yeah, I really see where you're coming from. I remember reading a line which said, "Try being his reflection here."
Yes.
Sort of his reflection on this planet. Like, so ask yourself what he would do if he was here. So so it's sort of nudging yourself towards doing good because he
Yes.
is the ultimate good.
Absolutely.
Like,
Actually, okay, I don't want to say something wrong now because, again, it flew off my memory. But when God was creating humans, he said that he is actually creating his deputies or his representatives on earth. And that's such a great level of honor given to humanity because being a representative of God, being again, if I'm using the wrong term, I apologize for that. Being a representative or being a deputy of God on earth, it's such a great level. So we have to, live up to that level of, let's say, trust in us, right?
yeah, it's a very honorable and responsible job.
Absolutely.
Right. Now, what's one piece of advice you would give your younger self if you could go back in time and talk to your 16, 17-year-old self? Because a lot of people watching this podcast are probably in their teenage years.
Yeah. So what I would say is, so I want to bring in so you said there is no time limit, right?
No, not
I want to bring in a very interesting story.
Sure, take your time, please.
So there was a caliph of Arabic Empire back then, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. When he took over the caliphate of Islamic Empire, he wanted to rule, fairly. He wanted to be very just. And we know from our history, from the history of Islam, that one of the most just people in our one of the just leaders we had was Umar ibn Khattab, who was the second caliph. And he reached out to Umar ibn al-Khattab's son, Abdullah ibn Umar, asking hey, can you give me some advice on how to run this country? Because I want to run it the way he did, the other Umar. And then the response came from Umar's son, Abdullah ibn Umar. The response came saying that all you need to do is increase your taqwa, work on your worshipping of God, work on your connection with God, improve it, and ask from Him, and keep doing whatever you're doing, and ask Allah for guidance, and you will be guided. That's exactly what he did, and he became one of the greatest caliphs in the history of the entire Islamic empire. So if I could see myself from 16 to 17 years old, I would probably just say, hey, you need to focus on your relationship with God. You have to improve it, and you have to ask for guidance from Him, and you will be guided. Would I do anything different if I had a chance to relive those last 10 years? I would probably just focus more on my connection with God. I would probably do more on that front. But other than that, in terms of achievements, in terms of career-wise, education-wise, I don't think anything could have done better. So, I believe that if I could focus more on my connection with the Creator, I would have become even a better person by now. But I accept my fate, and I am happy with whatever I have right now.
Now, a quick question before I move on to my next question. How do you think it exactly works when you ask God for guidance? How is it so it's your belief that it's going to absolutely work out, certainly work out? Because I'm asking that question because I have my own way of explaining it. So I really want to hear from you, your take on it.
Yes. My take on it is based on one of the greatest scholars we had in the history of Islam again. So what he did was, he wanted to, there was no rain, there was rain that was giving them hard time, giving people very hard time. And people asked him, can we please collectively pray for rain from God? And he was like, yeah, sure. And people saw him carrying some stuff like to collect water, and they were like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm collecting stuff for collecting water. I'm gathering them." And they're like, "Why would you do that? Like, there is no water." And he's like, "But we're gonna ask for water, right? Like, if we don't believe it's gonna happen, like, what's the point of asking?
Yeah.
Like, when you ask for something, you like faith is you have to believe it's gonna happen for you. When you ask for guidance, you have to believe it's gonna happen for you. This world is dependent on causes. Like, one way or the other, through some cause, you're gonna get that guidance. Like, some person is gonna show up in your life at the needed time, and he's gonna tell you. Or someone else is gonna come. Oh, you're gonna read something somewhere. You're gonna, like, Instagram is so popular, bloggers are so popular. You're gonna hear something from Instagram. You're gonna see the sign. Like, you just have to have 100% faith in what you're asking. That is gonna happen for you. So whenever that happens, whenever you have that level of faith, I'm sure it's gonna happen for you. Like, that's my philosophy. Like, whenever I'm asking something, I am so confident it's going to happen for me that I don't even doubt it. You know, like, I don't know, like, when I ask for guidance, right? Or when I have a hard decision to make, I ask, like, if it's good for me, make it happen for me and make it easy for me. If it's bad for me, then turn me away from it and turn it away from me. And give me whatever is good for my dunya and akhirah, like the hereafter. So, and then I just keep doing the cause. If I want it, I will keep doing it. And if it's bad for me, something happens and it just cancels out all of a sudden. If it's good for me, then it becomes very easy for me. And like, I achieve it easily.
This actually reminds me of a verse I read from the Quran, and I hope I won't misquote it. And it goes, "No soul shall be burdened with more than it can afford."
Exactly.
Right.
I think it's in
whatever
the last...
challenge comes your way, it was meant to happen, and
Yes.
that you actually have the resource and the potential to overcome it.
Yes, and at the same time, we should also keep asking that we will not be burdened by something which is beyond our capacities, because, I mean, you don't want something to challenge you so much that it will drive you out of, your faith.
Oh yeah, right.
So, yeah, but you're right. In the Quran, it states that. I don't know the exact quote, but I think it's in the last verses of Surah Al-Baqarah. Like, we have that no soul will be burdened with anything they cannot bear.
Yeah, so much wisdom and profound knowledge in that book. If you just read it and the amount of peace that brings to your mind is just
It's fantastic.
it's fantastic. It's fantastic. Like, everything makes so much sense when you read it from page, cover to cover.
Yes, and also if you read it with Tafsiri Hilal,
Yeah,
it's so much better. Like,
but they're so long. They're so extensive.
detailed explanation of everything.
Oh yeah,
It's fantastic. Right. Yeah.
Right. Because I remember reading this one recently, a surah on what's permissible to eat and what's not, and there's so many injunctions as to when you can have impermissible food and when you can't, and under what circumstances it's considered okay to use it for medical reasons. It's very detailed.
Yes. So a piece of advice to the young people is improve your connection with God and just keep working towards your goal. Do the cause to the best of your ability. If it's good for you, if it's meant to be good for you, it's going to happen. If not, then just keep pursuing opportunities. So there is a saying in Uzbek, right? Beshikdan qabrgacha ilm izla. So from
cradle to grave.
Yes, cradle to grave, keep pursuing knowledge, and you will be blessed, inshallah.
And one last question for today is, this podcast is hopefully going to be watched by your future self when it's finally out. And he's probably watching you right now. Mr. Abdul Malik, this camera is rolling, right? So what's something you would say to your future self?
Wow.
Yeah, right.
That's a question which I've never thought of.
Yeah, you might. And I mean, who knows? You might come back and watch this podcast in 10 years from now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So what's something you'd want to say to that guy, or you would want that guy to know?
Well, okay. I need a minute to think.
Yeah, sure. Take your time. Take your time.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I just hope that By that time, I would have been so. I would have been able to. I hope by that time I would be able to, you know, change, change lives in a good way, do lots of good things, and become a genuinely good person with a strong bond with his creator. Because so many years already passed by when which I could have used more efficiently. But I hope that. So, for example, when you asked if I had a chance to talk to myself 10 years ago, what would I say? And I'm saying improve your connection with God, focus on that. And I hope that after 10 years, when I watch it back, I would just have done enough to improve that I wouldn't have to tell myself then from 10 years ago, hey, you had to do better. I hope I would not have to say that. I hope I would be doing already good enough on that front. And I hope I would have been able to touch some lives, bring some positivity, bring some good things into the community. So that's what I genuinely hope for. So looking at myself from 10 years from now, I hope I would be able to say, okay, you did well enough.
Yeah.
You did well enough. I mean, I hope I would be able to say that. Because right now, from 10 years ago, I would probably not be able to say that. Again, not career-wise, not study-wise, but in terms of touching lives, you know, bringing good to the lives of people. I feel like I could have done better on that front. But I hope 10 years from now, when I look back, I would be content with what I did during that period of time.
Yeah, that's a very admirable thing to say here. Right. Mr. Muhammad, I thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing with us your past experiences, your knowledge, and your take on so many different profound, deep topics. I've personally enjoyed this conversation. It's been such a blast. And yeah, do you have any comments you'd like to make before we end this podcast?
This is a fantastic platform. Like you said, we were past 2.5 hours. I think another half an hour passed. Like we're past 3 hours, but it didn't feel like it, to be honest. Like I enjoyed it so much. It was such a good moderation by your side. Questions were so well picked. You did a brilliant job of having a look into my resume and picking questions so well that I was able to highlight the parts that were most needed. I hope that young people who are going to watch this show are actually going to get the value for their future lives, because as you said, it's going to be mostly people of late teenage age, right? So hopefully it's going to be a useful content for them who are just about to pave ways for their future careers, future lives. So hopefully through this podcast we have been able to direct them, guide them into something good. So at least if we at least can help one of them, right, choose the right path, that's already a great result achieved. So hopefully we would have done, I very much hope we have done it today. So thank you. It's very privileged to be here. And wish you best of luck with the future of this project and with all other projects you have.
Thanks a lot. It means so much to me, you coming on the show today. And we hope to have you on future episodes, hopefully.
Look forward to it.
Right. All right, guys. This is all for today. And if you liked our content, please don't forget to like it and subscribe to our channel and leave your comments in the comment section below. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.